Hey guys. This is part 6 of What If Naruto is hiding her identity and secretly a girl. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start.
We are pain, that's all. We are God.
Chapter 28. Strategy has nothing on Naruto. He leant against the doorframe, staring hard at the wooden door until it was thrown open. Naruto glared at him. His eyes scanned over her form, noticing the messy hair, before moving down to her baggy nightshirt. It looked stuffed. That was the best word his alcohol-lulled mind could think of. It looked like she had more chest than when she wore a jacket. Maybe she was more muscular than Shikamaru realized. He decided to ignore it and look further down, noticing something else. "You're not wearing pants." Naruto huffed. "That's 'cause I was sleeping. This is my nightshirt." "You have nice legs." She shifted uncomfortable as Shikamaru continued to stare at her legs. "Shikamaru, what do you want?" "You." He finally looked up, seeing the confusion on Naruto's face. "What are you doing here?" "Choji left me at the bar and I was meant to stay at his place because my mum would kill me if I came home drunk. So I came here." "Oh, you want to sleep on my couch?" Naruto moved aside so that Shikamaru could walk in. "Why didn't you say so? I'll get you a pillow and a blanket." Naruto disappeared into a second room as Shikamaru drifted over to the lounge. He stared at the doorway, waiting for the blonde to return. When she did, she dropped a pillow and blanket onto the couch beside Shikamaru before moving to close the front door that the male had left open. She went to the sink behind him, returning with a glass of water that she put on the table. "Make sure you drink that." She put the pillow at the head of the couch, unfolding the blanket and putting it at the other end. When she noticed Shikamaru's blank expression, she sighed, kneeling down in front of him. "You are more hopeless drunk than you are sober." She proceeded to remove his shoes for him. As Naruto removed his shoes, he started to feel overheated. To cool off, he undid his vest, throwing it to the floor before struggling to remove his shirt. His arms didn't seem to want to work, making the shirt get stuck halfway over his head. Laughter reached his ears through the fabric before something tugged at it. He was free. Only he found himself looking at Naruto's shirt, making him ponder why it wasn't sitting properly again. The thought was dismissed when he realized she had freed him. Falling forward, he buried his face in her stomach, wrapping his arms around Naruto's waist. She was warm and soft, making him want to hold her tighter. "Thank you, Naruto." "No problem, Shikamaru, but is everything alright?" He let Naruto go, raising a hand to remove the elastic from his hair. "No, I don't know what to do." Naruto tilted her head to the side, sitting down on the coffee table and crossing her legs. She held up the glass of water. "Don't worry. Pervy Sage used to get drunk around me all the time. Drink this and try to sleep. It'll make you feel better." Shikamaru did drink the water since he was thirsty, but when he was done he looked down at the empty cup, still feeling horrible. "It's not that. It didn't work. Naruto, have you ever loved someone who just doesn't notice?" Naruto crossed her arms, her eyes closing to small slits. She took the cup from him, sitting it next to her. "Maybe. It's a drag. Temari would probably call me a wimp." He laid down, watching as Naruto pulls the blanket over him. Reaching over, he put his hand on Naruto's leg, just above the knee. The skin was soft, feeling almost like water running over his fingers. He never wanted to stop running his hands over her skin. "I don't want to feel like this. But I've tried to move on and forget, but I can't. I've felt this way for so long that I don't even know who I would be if I stopped." Naruto sighed, unfolding her arms and adjusting Shikamaru's blanket so it covered his bare chest better. "Well, maybe you should make a move. You're a hard guy to read, so maybe she doesn't know." "She probably doesn't want to know," Shikamaru muttered to himself, watching his thumb rub Naruto's leg. He could feel goosebumps rising on her flesh. "Shikamaru, believe it or not, you have, what's the word Ino used for sigh, appeal. That's it. You have appeal. You're smart, loyal, strong, a good friend, And a good ninja, you don't judge people on appearance or the little things, and you're attractive. I am? If he had a clear mind, he had no doubt that he would be blushing. How do you know? You're half naked at the moment. I think I can clearly determine that you're attractive. And luckily you probably won't remember a thing. You might not realize this, but only every second word you are saying is coherent. Naruto grinned at him. You're really drunk. And you checked me out. Shikamaru grinned, rubbing his hand up and down Naruto's thigh. You're very attractive too. Thanks. Naruto scratched the back of her neck. You know I've never seen you with your hair down before. What do you think? He had never seen Naruto blush so dark before. She stood up, making Shikamaru's hand fall from her leg, something he was highly disappointed by. You, look different. I'm going to go back to bed. Try and get some sleep, okay? Shikamaru grabbed her hand as she went to walk off. Wait, can I get a kiss off someone who thinks I'm attractive? Naruto looked as though she was going to refuse, but then she gave him a small smile. Sure. Then she muttered, how could this end badly? Bending down, she brushed her lips against his, her hand resting on his jaw-line. Reaching up, Shikamaru buried one hand in Naruto's hair, and the other grabbed her waist, accidentally pushing her onto the lounge. The dark-haired man felt Naruto's knee brush against his inner thigh when she half laid, half knelt on the couch to steady herself. One of Naruto's hands pressed into the armrest that Shikamaru's head rested on, whilst the other sat on his shoulder. Naruto's shirt brushed Shikamaru's chest. He balled the hem of the shirt in his fist, feeling the skin on Naruto's back brush against his wrist. As his hand ran up her spine, he felt Naruto gasp into the kiss, making deepen the kiss easy. Naruto's hand moved from his shoulder down to his chest. Her skin felt cool against the alcohol-induced heat Shikamaru suffered. When Naruto pulled back from the embrace, Shikamaru gave a faint whine, trying to follow her. The blonde dropped her head onto Shikamaru's shoulder, breathing heavy. The male kept running his hand up and down the Naruto's spine, enjoying the feel of her skin, the movement of her muscles with each ragged breath she took. So was that a better kiss than Haruki's? He asked, his voice rougher and deeper than before. Even with the sake breath, it was definitely better. Naruto lifted her head so that Shikamaru could see her face. She gave him another small smile, one that did not make her eyes sparkle like they usually would. Temari will come around. Just show her how you feel, when you're sober and you don't hit on anyone without pants. Naruto jumped with a squeal when Shikamaru's fingers danced over her back. She slowly stood up, Shikamaru's hand still on her skin as the other dropped from within her hair. Not anyone without pants, just you. His hand stopped on Naruto's behind, under her shirt, his smile stretching into a grin. You do have really nice legs. Are you wearing satin underwear? He rubbed his hand over the material, feeling the soft texture. Naruto closed her eyes, taking a deep breath before removing his hand from her body, putting it on his chest. You're so drunk that I am worried that you won't wake up in the morning. She refilled his glass of water before retreating to her bedroom. It would be troublesome if I don't. He grinned, rolling onto his side and pulling the blanket up to his chin. Definitely satin. The first thing he noticed when he woke was the horrible taste in his mouth. The next was the weighted feeling to his body. Lastly, and the most annoying one made itself known when he tried to open his eyes. His head pounded so furiously that Shikamaru was certain his brain was continuously exploding. He groaned, gripping his head with both hands, as though that alone would keep his skull intact. Mustering up his bravery, he peeked his eyes open. He wasn't in his room, that much he could tell from where he laid. It felt nothing like his bed. Looking around, Shikamaru surveyed the room before light forced him to close his eyes with a moan of anguish. He heard a chuckle that sounded like nails on a chalkboard to his ears. Your head hurting? Someone asked, sounding far too amused. Please don't yell, Shikamaru begged, barely glimpsing Naruto before the brightness of her hair forced him to close his eyes. I'm not. He heard her walk closer before there was a pressure on the couch, next to his side. She started whispering for him. Take these and drink this. Tentatively opening his eyes, Shikamaru saw that Naruto was holding tablets and a glass of juice for him. Aren't you meant to take tablets with water? He sat up slowly, his head protesting every move. Probably, Naruto shrugged, but you probably want to flush out the bad taste in your mouth. I can imagine it's worse than kissing Haruki. If his breath is that bad, why do you kiss him? Shikamaru could taste as well as hear the bile in his voice. He took the tables out of Naruto's hand and gulped down the juice. A necessity of dating him? Naruto snorted before it turned into a full laugh that made Shikamaru wince. Seeing his pain, she stifled her amusement. That's funny. How so? Shikamaru snapped, crossing his arms over what he now realized was a bare chest. I'll tell you when your head stops hurting. Naruto reached out, pushing the man's hair out of his face. We should get you some breakfast. As long as it's pancakes and bacon. Shikamaru rose slowly, letting the blanket fall back onto the lounge. He didn't miss the fact that Naruto looked over his chest with mild appraise as she handed him his shirt. So, Naruto starts as she locks her front door. Have you ever been drunk before? No. I've had alcohol once before, but I only had one, so I didn't end up drunk. Ino did. She was embarrassing. A horrible thought crossed his mind as Naruto laughed and draped an arm over his shoulder that was less than comforting. Her cheeky smile practically told him what was coming next. You don't remember anything, do you? When he shook his head, Naruto cackled. Well, there is something you should know. The things you don't remember, particularly the embarrassing things, are liable to come back to you, with time. Can't wait for you to remember drunk Shikamaru. He's a lot of fun. Shikamaru groans, burying his face in his hands. Knowing his luck, he was probably shamelessly, and horribly, flirting with Naruto, who thought it was purely drunken behavior. His hair, which he hadn't pulled back, was hiding some of his blush at least. They walked past Mrs. Haruma's door, who stuck her head out. Shikamaru swore he heard her hiss at them. She probably thought they had spent the night together again. Shikamaru hadn't thought to deny it when he had gone off at her. Now, however, he slipped his arm around Naruto's waist, letting his fingers graze her sides so she squirmed closer to him. Mrs. Haruma turned beet red, and if it was humanly possible, Shikamaru was sure there would be smoke coming from her ears as she slammed her door closed. Naruto appeared to be oblivious to all this. With a smile, Shikamaru skimmed his fingers over Naruto's side again, listening to her squeal with laughter even if it hurt his head. She spun out of his hold, grabbing his hand before his fingers could continue their attack. She then proceeded to drag him down the hallway, still holding his hand. He actually expected interruptions during breakfast, but no one appeared. On the contrary, the cafe they sat in was decently populated, so there was enough noise that they could have a private conversation that didn't carry, but not so packed that they risked seeing anyone they knew. The breakfast, as well as the medicine Naruto gave him, were working to remove his headache. He was able to hold a conversation with Naruto that allowed him to get answers about Sai from her. He had tried to punch Sai when he had first seen him next to Naruto, recognizing him as the one who had attacked the blonde. It had been Naruto who talked him out of it, since he refused to listen to Sakura or Naruto's new captain. Shikamaru also learned that yet again Sasuke tried to kill Naruto, with a sword this time, but Sai had stopped him. Shikamaru finally approached the subject of Haruki once he had had 2 cups of coffee. So you and Haruki, are you dating? Again he received a snort of laughter. No. He trained me in chakra sensing. I had trouble at first, so he created this punishment game. He would eat foul-smelling and tasting things, and if I failed to sense his approach, he would surprise me by kissing me. I was forced to taste his awful breath. Once, I don't know what the hell he ate, but I literally threw up after. I was only sorry I didn't throw up in his mouth. That would have shown him. As Naruto sipped her milk, Shikamaru thought over what she had said. Although he didn't like the idea of Haruki kissing her anytime he wanted, especially when Shikamaru had only given her one short kiss, he couldn't help but feel gleeful that there was no relationship between them. Naruto didn't even appear to have romantic feelings for him at all. Shikamaru returned to his meal with a grin on his face that he couldn't remove. It wasn't until they left the cafe, Shikamaru's head clear and Naruto still giggling at his amnesia, that they ran into Choji, who looked relieved to see him. Where did you run off to last night? I looked everywhere. Why do you look so happy? At Shikamaru's confused frown, Naruto piped up. He wound up at mine at like 2 in the morning saying something about staying at yours but you left. He was pretty smashed. Choji paled, gulping. Did he say anything else about you? I mean to you? Nothing much. Naruto's eyes were closed as she shrugged casually. Something about her behavior made him think she was lying. She had been somewhat shifty all morning and more than once Shikamaru had seen pain appear in her eyes when she stared off at nothing. Oh good, Choji sighed. He was just rambling nonsense to me. But I didn't leave. I just went to the bathroom. Sorry. I don't remember. Shikamaru scratched the back of his head, smiling at his friend. For a moment I had worried that you went home with the waitress that gave you a free bottle, but I saw her still working when I went looking for you. There was a waitress? Naruto asked, sounded similar to her childish pouting voice she used in the academy. I vaguely remember a waitress. I definitely remember the alcohol. He smiled when Naruto snorted. I think I'm going to go home and shower, and scrub my teeth raw. Hey, all us old rookies are actually free today, so I thought we could all get together, Choji remarked. How about at the Nara estate? That way if you fall asleep we can wake you when we get there. Sounds good. How about around lunchtime? Sure. Naruto, you in? The two males looked at the blonde expectantly. Definitely. I just have to meet Haruki and Riko first. Choji shot Shikamaru a look before a confused expression crossed the bigger man's face. Shikamaru wasn't sure why and he was in too good a mood to analyze it. Instead he turned in the direction of the Nara estate. See you at lunchtime, he declared with a single wave. The rookie eight, as Asuma-sensei had dubbed them, plus Lee's team and Sai arrived at the Nara estate just after 12. Sakura and Ino, with the help of Choji's mom, had prepared a picnic for them all, making Shikamaru retreat into his house to find a handful of blankets to spread out on the grass. They were in the middle of lunch, with Shikamaru talking to Naruto about bringing out his shogi board, when his father appeared on the pouch. He was nursing a hot tea and looked as though he was just after fresh air. Lee, however, wouldn't stand for someone not being included. Sir, please feel free to join us. There is plenty of food. Lee bowed deeply. Also, thank you for letting us picnic on your property. Shikaka looked over the group, his eyes resting on his son, who lounged on his side, next to a blonde mimicking his position. His eyes moved off Shikamaru, resting on Naruto a moment before moving back to Lee. Thank you, but I'm not hungry. My son's friends are welcome here at any time as well. He sipped his tea before a gleam appeared in his eyes, one Shikamaru knew well. You all appear to be competent ninjas though, so I would like to pose you a question before going back inside. You have to get to the other side of a wall, but it's too high to climb, too long to go around, the ground is too hard to dig through and the wall is too thick to break down. How do you get through? They all sat and thought for a moment before Kiba piped up. I could use my tumbling fang over fang a few times on the wall, and that should create a hole for me to go through. Just because it can't be broken completely doesn't mean it can't be drilled through at one fixed point. It was a good idea, Shikamaru admitted, but it had flaws. I could create a bird and try to fly over it, though if it's too tall the air will make my artwork wet with the moisture in the higher altitudes. Sai put a hand to his chin, mulling over the answer. Well, I could punch the wall a couple of times and then Choji could run into it with his boulder form, Sakura contemplated, not noticing how Shikamaru rolled his eyes. That was the definition of breaking the wall, which his father had already said couldn't happen. Sakura had probably forgotten, or was overestimating her strength. All of those ideas won't really work. Even if you could break through it, after my father said you can't, or even if Sai can fly over it, by the time we all get through using whichever method some of us will be out of chakra. We don't know if we will have to fight when we get through, and we don't even know if, in this scenario, we're all together and can work together or if we are alone. The more destructive options would also alert whoever is on the other side of the wall. Shikamaru shook his head. He was about to bring his fingers together to think over the question when he noticed the confused look on Naruto's face. He was going to ask the blonde if she wanted him to explain the question, but she spoke before he could. Why don't we just use the gate? Because there is no gate, Sakura snapped, as though she was fed up with Naruto's stupid questions, except that it wasn't a stupid question. Of course there is. Naruto shook her head. Shikaku never said there wasn't, and there are only two reasons you make a wall: to keep people out or to keep something in. Our village has a wall, and that's to protect us and keep people out, but if it didn't have gates we wouldn't be able to survive. We wouldn't be able to receive imports or leave to do jobs that earn the village money. We also wouldn't be able to send out exports nor have clients come to the village. If there were no gates we wouldn't survive, making the wall pretty stupid, so why wouldn't the wall Shikaku mentioned have a gate too? Shikamaru was impressed. It was obvious, yet it had not occurred to him. Looking at his father, he saw a pleased smile on the man's scarred face. His eyes found Shikamaru's and he nodded discreetly. It wasn't clear if the nod meant the answer was correct or something else. Very good, Naruto. You are able to find the simple answers to difficult questions. Shikaku's praise forced a bashful smile onto Naruto's face. It was something Shikamaru had never witnessed before. Her tan cheeks tinted red and she bit her lower lip. It was definitely one of Shikamaru's favorite smiles. Yeah, snorted Sakura, clearly scorned that she came up with the worst answer. Naruto is the definition of simple. When Naruto looked down, her eyes becoming cloudy, not caring who saw, Shikamaru reached out and put his hand onto Naruto's, giving it a squeeze. There is nothing wrong with that, Shikaku's deep voice rumbled, holding authority. Ninjas often expect everything to be complicated and needing elaborate strategy, or jutsu. That is not always the case, as you saw with the simple answer of the gate. You all assumed that it would be more difficult than that, to the point that you forgot that a simple gate was an option. We Naros often overthink things and need someone in our lives to remind us that there is more often than not a gate, even if it is hard to see. Shikaku gave Shikamaru and Naruto an approving smile before getting up and walking inside. Naruto's bashful smile was back. Do you want to teach me shogi properly now? Now that I know you have a bit of a strategic mind, absolutely. Shikamaru got up, running into his room to retrieve the board. He ignored Tenten's comment that they were supposed to be spending time as a group. It was only natural for such a large group to break off into 2 or more little groups. Besides, it was time with Naruto. He wasn't going to pass that up. He would deny it to anyone who asked, but he was avoiding Naruto. Every time he thought of her, another thought crossed his mind, one that made him turn red. It had started simply, and had surprised and mortified him. Naruto had warned him though. Ino had been talking about a silk dress she wanted to buy whilst they walked to their usual training grounds. Shikamaru was only half paying attention in case the topic changed to something important. Then Choji had piped up with a question. Which one's softer, silk or satin? I always forget. Satin, I think. Admittedly, I like the feel of both, Shikamaru confessed, getting a raised eyebrow from Ino. Not on me, but if I come across a bit of satin fabric I'm liable to touch it. From the depths of his mind his own voice rang. Are you wearing satin underwear? He remembered his hand running over soft fabric that curved as his hand traveled over it. Blue eyes and yellow hair filled his mind. When it dawned on him what must have happened, he choked on his own saliva, his face heating and his head becoming dizzy. I practically molested Naruto. Why didn't she slap me? He forced the thought from his mind and focused on training, but when he was alone it came back. Since then he had lost all control over his blush, and would find himself dry-mouthed and tongue-tied when he thought of talking to Naruto. Hence, he had been avoiding her. Unfortunately, Lady Tsunade wanted to speak with Naruto, and had decided to send Shikamaru to fetch her. Knocking on her door harder, he began to wonder and pray that Naruto wasn't home. His knuckles were turning red when the door finally flew open. It took his brain a moment to settle after taking in the sight before him. For some reason Naruto had answered the door in her sexy jutsu form, a towel wrapped tightly around her body. Maybe she is trying to improve it for her competitions with Konohamaru, Shikamaru thought, looking over the form. He had to admit that he found this form more appealing than her others from the academy days. Her legs were long and tan, soft skin covering strong, lean muscles. Her hips were wide, like in her old form, but her waist didn't taper in dramatically, making it look more realistic, yet still alluring. She actually looked like she had meat on her bones in this form. It was hard to tell with the towel on, but her stomach still looked flat. Her arms weren't dainty like Naruto usually made them for her sexy jutsu. Instead, they looked like Naruto's actual arms. Muscular and able to throw a punch, but not bulging. Her damp hair was the same length and style as Naruto's actual hair, being longer than she cut it in her younger days. The chest hadn't changed much, or if at all. It was still ample and creating tempting cleavage at the top of her towel. As his gaze wandered around her form, taking in every aspect, Naruto shifted, wrapping an arm around her chest, doing a little more than compressing them and drawing Shikamaru's eye. It had never been a problem that Naruto had a flat chest, but he had never seen a woman wearing so little before, even in a hedge. Naruto's transformations in the academy were something he never bothered to look at unless she was fully dressed. He had seen that version a few times. "What is it, Shikamaru?" "I was just about to get dressed. I was sent to tell you that Lady Tsunade wants to see you." He put his hands in his pants pockets, hoping Naruto wouldn't notice that they weren't sitting right. He turned away but stopped, looking back over his shoulder. Perhaps he spoke up because he was sick of females thinking all men like skinny women. Perhaps it was because he wanted to know why Naruto showered in her sexy jutsu form. He wasn't sure, but he did find himself speaking his thoughts to the blonde. "I like this sexy jutsu form a lot more than your other one. I never saw a peal of women who look like they would be knocked over with a gust of wind. This one looks strong and attractive." Naruto frowned, looking down at her form before looking back at Shikamaru. "What are you talking about? I'm not in my sexy jutsu form. You were just pounding on my door so much that I didn't get a chance to bind my chest." His eyes widened as he looked over Naruto's form again, noticing how her towel was starting to slip. Turning his head away quickly, he felt warm liquid run from his nose. Discreetly wiping the blood away, he listened as Naruto spoke. "I'll go see Granny Tsunade once I'm dressed." Shikamaru nodded, not trusting himself to speak. Without looking at Naruto, he walked away, focusing on putting one foot in front of the other. Never in his wildest dreams did he think he would have Naruto's gender confirmed in such a way. Okay, that was a lie. There was one recurring idea that went very similar to that, but he never expected to find himself so immobilized. Chapter 29, Wild vs. Chaos. As he and Choji walked towards the village's main gate, he spotted the distinct blonde hair of Naruto. She was standing next to the giant form of Haruki. Shikamaru tried not to scoff. He knew they weren't together, but he still wasn't fond of Haruki. When they drew closer, they noticed Riko's tiny little form standing with the other two. The small girl was bouncing around and repeatedly hugging Naruto or grabbing onto her arm. The two gate guards were watching on with fascination. Shikamaru was aware that a large amount of gossip moved around the village because of those two men. With this knowledge in hand, he made sure to watch his behavior with Naruto around the men. The last thing he needed was for the entire village to know of his feelings for Naruto before the blonde herself knew. Though with how dense she could be, that may just happen. "Hey, it's your lunch friends," Riko exclaimed, pointing at the two. "Hi, lunch friends. You don't remember their names, do you?" Naruto asked in a deadpan voice. "I remember the hot one's name," Riko screeched. "That's the important thing." "Please tell me you're not saying Kiba is better looking than us," Shikamaru joked, making Naruto chuckle. "No, Hinata," Riko sighed. "Girl after my own heart. She's almost as hot as you, Naruto, but I've seen you naked." Naruto rolled her eyes. "You stay away from Hinata. Pretty sure she's only interested in boys anyway." For her, I'd convert. "Gender isn't religion," Haruki snorted. "We've got to get going. It's been good seeing you again, Naruto. Nice meeting you. Lunch friends. You both suck." Naruto shook her head, only to yelp as Haruki grabbed her and slammed his lips onto hers. She gave a muffled yelp as Shikamaru tried to hold in a growl. Haruki held her arms, making it impossible to push him away. The moment he let her go, she punched him in the arm. "Why did you do that? I sensed you earlier." "For fun. At least my breath doesn't stink." Haruki laughed. "Am I that easy to surprise kiss?" Naruto yelled. Yes. Shikamaru replied instantly, only to realize what he had said. I mean, based on what we've seen. He tried not to groan. If unlucky, the gate guards would spread it around the village within the day. Something flickered through Naruto's eyes before a tight smile appeared. That's not helpful, Shikamaru. Now get out of here, she waved away her two friends. I have better things to do than stand here saying goodbye to you two. Riko gave Naruto another hug before they said goodbye and walked out of the village. You know, I don't actually have anything to do today. Naruto threw her head back with a groan. Not until Kakashi-sensei gets out of the hospital. He says he has new training for me but won't tell me what it is. Well, after we pick up the gate reports we were planning to train. Did you want to join us? Choji asked, smiling down at the girl. Naruto shrugged. Sure. Shikamaru and Choji took Naruto to the training grounds their team commonly used on the Akamichi property. It was a large dirt field with a large tree stump off to the side with blood-soaked padding for punching. Off to one side was a mass of trees Shikamaru used for shadows. He knew that the open space wasn't the most ideal for Naruto's fighting style, seeing as she appeared to favor studying her opponent before creating a surprised attack. He had been impressed by the way Naruto utilized her shadow clones. She had certainly become a master of them. At the rate she was going to make a name for herself through them, such as Naruto, the Shadow Ninja, which actually sounded pretty cool when Shikamaru thought about it. He was distracted for a moment wondering if he should start the title for her. She would probably love it. What did you want to practice today, Choji? Shikamaru asked, his hands in his pockets and his elbow brushing Naruto's arm repeatedly. How about you try and grab me with your shadow while I'm in human boulder? It'll help you with your speed and me with my maneuvering. Naruto, you can try and catch me like you caught Kakashi-sensei. Naruto laughed, startling Shikamaru. The laugh she used was one she used with very few, and Choji was not one of them. It was the laugh that was careless, girly, and relaxed. Hearing it made him look between the two, dread trickling into his belly with each pound of his heart. I don't think I'd be able to catch you with it or keep up with Shikamaru. That technique is only used for helping teammates like with Sakura or buying me a second or two by catching my opponent by surprise. It takes too much chakra to hold someone in motion when they will fight against it. There is something I've wanted to test out though. Haruki suggested it, since I have more chakra than what I know what to do with. Why didn't you try it out when Haruki was here? Choji asked, moving towards the tree line for Shikamaru. It's too hard to learn the technique with chakra I'm unfamiliar with. I know Haruki's chakra, but unless I am looking for it specifically, I can't pick it out of the crowd. It's not easy to do it. If I flooded this area with chakra, I'd be able to tell you how many people were within range, but not who they were. I know our friend's chakras to some extent though. I'd be able to tell you if it was one of them and who. Naruto scratched the back of her head and gave a small smile at their surprised looks. So you want to use this technique, whatever it is, on Choji? Shikamaru asked, his throat tightening and his stomach swirling in a sickening way. No, Naruto shook her head. I don't know his chakra well enough. I want to use it on you. I'll be fighting Choji. You're meant to be on my side. I will be. This technique will help if I join a team when the members are nearly spent. Naruto rolled her eyes. I promise it won't hurt. But I want to see if you can tell I'm using it. Shikamaru shrugged, figuring there was no harm. It actually might make him feel better. He positioned himself in the shadow of the tree line, facing the open field. The shadows were fairly deep, which meant he would have longer reach, but he knew Choji would stay within his range. To allow Choji to know his limits, Shikamaru stretched out his shadow as far as it would go, watching as his friend marked the ground with a kunai. As he withdrew his shadow, Naruto walked over to stand behind him. He could feel her body heat as she stepped closer to him and put her hands on his shoulders. She paused. Can you take off your vest? It's in the way and I need to touch you or I'll probably screw up. Okay. Shikamaru threw his vest on the ground and tried not to shudder when Naruto put her hands on his back. He could feel the chakra coating her hands. It prickled like pins and needles without the pain. Alright, you guys ready? Choji yelled from where he had stabbed his kunai in the ground. Shikamaru looked over his shoulder, seeing Naruto nod. Yeah, go for it. Let me know if it's too much. If what's too much? Shikamaru asked Naruto as Choji turned into a giant boulder, and he stretched out his shadow to try and maneuver his friend into a trap. Choji moved much faster than Shikamaru could control his shadow, which made things difficult. Naruto laughed, leaning forward to talk in his ear over the sound of dirt and clay getting torn up by Choji. You'll know if I get it working. Shikamaru almost looked over his shoulder at the blonde, but he caught himself, remembering that he was trying to catch Choji. His friend was smart, and knew Shikamaru's jutsu well. Whenever he was at risk of being caught, he went to the edge of the boundary, knowing that the genius shadow would be at its weakest, enabling him to break it with sheer force. So continued the frustrating game of cat and mouse. To make matters worse, as the sun slowly moved through the sky, the shadow Shikamaru stood in became smaller and smaller. He still wasn't sure what Naruto was doing, but he was noticing that although he had become used to the prickling feel of her chakra pressing into his skin, it had spread throughout his body. How's your chakra, Shikamaru? Choji asked as he stopped to take a breath. I'm still good. He could understand the surprised frown on Choji's face. In Team Ino Shikacho, Shikamaru had the least amount of chakra. Luckily for him, he was good at using his brain to compensate. However, today he felt good, strong, as though he hadn't used any chakra at all. He shot a look at Naruto, seeing sweat beading on her face. She smiled and nodded though. He still wasn't sure what she was doing. We can keep going. He went back to planning ways to catch Choji. Every time he succeeded, he let his friend go. After one particular catch, Choji stopped to breathe before jumping into boulder form. He pelted across the ground, hitting a trench his form had dug. The dark-haired boy felt a surge of energy. Shikamaru's shadow was after him, and the moment he landed he grabbed Choji again, his shadow wounding around his large, ball form and holding him still. Once he was sure that Choji wasn't going to lose control again, he let his friend go, allowing Choji to unravel. Choji breathed deeply and looked over at Shikamaru and Naruto, only to frown. He stood and pointed at something on the ground. Shikamaru, did I move that by accident? Shikamaru looked at where his friend pointed, only to see the kunai meters in front of Choji. He tilted his head. There was no way he would have been able to grab Choji past that point, especially with the shadow he was in lowering. He didn't have nearly enough chakra. He focused on his shadow, which he still had extended on the ground. It was thicker than he would usually have it, and peaks kept breaking out then retreating. It was wild, almost uncontrollable, but still somewhat lazy at the same time. His chakra was still manifesting the shadow, but not controlling its shape. Turning his head, he looked at the blonde behind him, who had a look of concentration on her face. Are you doing this? He asked as Choji jogged up to them, making sure to avoid Shikamaru's shadow that was sputtering uncontrollably. Yeah, but I'm trying to get it so my chakra goes into you, instead of kinda taking over. I had it before, but having to give you extra chakra is harder than I thought. You want it to filter into Shikamaru's system and become his? That can't be easy, but I have heard of those skilled at sensory can do so. Choji scratched his chin. Though all the ones I've heard of, the person getting the chakra had to pull it from the person's body. My dad knew someone when he was a kid who had to be bit. But they healed the person too. That would be hard to control how much. If Shikamaru was greedy, he could take too much, and it means he would have to stop fighting as I gave him chakra. Naruto screwed up her face as Shikamaru looked back at his shadow. This one way should allow him to fight. It was still taking wild shapes and he couldn't get it to move in a straight line. When he concentrated, he could feel Naruto's chakra moving through his system, but it wasn't becoming his own when it was channeled into his jutsu. He could feel the intensity of the chakra altering, moving in a thinner stream, and then it suddenly became thicker. His chest clenched, his body heated, and he doubled over as needles stabbed into his torso. A scream passed his lips. The chakra entering his body was not Naruto's. When she used her chakra on him, she was always gentle. This was far from gentle. It was violent, angry, and more than wild. It was pure chaos. It lasted only a moment before Naruto jumped away from him. Looking up through tearful eyes, Shikamaru could have sworn that the girl's blue eyes were tinted red. After she blinked, it was gone. She backed away from Shikamaru as Choji stepped forward and put a hand on his shoulder. After taking deep breaths, he was able to straighten, the pain slowly leaving him. I'm sorry, Naruto choked, still backing away. I didn't mean to hurt you. Naruto, Shikamaru coughed, stepping towards her. He tried not to flinch when she backed away, looking terrified. It's okay. No, it's not. You don't understand. Naruto turned away from them. I should go. She ran off before they could stop her. What was that all about? Choji asked. Are you alright? I'm fine. He was more worried about Naruto. It only took him a moment to realize whose chakra it was he felt. Part of him was impressed that Naruto could contain so much negative chakra within her body, and another part of him was mortified. The Nine Tails had taken advantage of Naruto to hurt him. She was not liable to forget that soon. He had no idea how she would react over time, but he could tell he would not be allowed to touch her anytime soon. Disgust filled his stomach. He had had contact with the beast that made Naruto a monster in the eyes of the village. The beast that had made Naruto's life so difficult had just attacked him. Bile rose in his throat. Even someone who wasn't a genius could work out that the Nine Tails had done it not to hurt Shikamaru himself, but to hurt Naruto. To take away one of the most precious things to her, a friend. He wasn't going to play into whatever game the Nine Tails was starting with Naruto. With a goodbye to Choji, he ran off to find the elusive blonde. Chapter 30, In a Pinch. He spotted Naruto not too far from the Akamichi compound. She was no longer running but instead walking at a brisk pace, talking to herself. Shikamaru could hear snippets as he ran closer. Did that on purpose. Jerk, he'll never trust me, but hate you. Shikamaru was startled when he realized she was talking to the Nine Tails. He wondered if it was possible for Naruto to communicate with the creature, and if she truly was berating something so powerful and dark. She stopped her muttering and walking when she spotted Choza. At this point, Shikamaru was only a few meters behind her. He knew that when she finally had the sense to detect him, she would run, so he started planning. Hey, teddy bear, do you know where Captain Yamato is? Shikamaru raised an eyebrow at the name Naruto gave Choza as the bigger man shook his head. Before Naruto could start walking again, Shikamaru wrapped his shadow around her legs, moving up, over her waist and stopping at her stomach. The Naras didn't make it known, but they could feel the things they grabbed with their shadows, though to a lesser extent. He already felt perverted for grabbing Naruto with his shadow hands. Having them on her chest would be crossing a line. Naruto froze, even though she was capable of moving. Choza looked over at Shikamaru in surprise. Sorry, Uncle Choza, but Naruto and I have to talk. He walked closer to the two, stopping beside the blonde. Alright, I'll leave you two to it. He walked off, only looking back once. Shikamaru waited until Choza was gone before looking at Naruto. You know I could get out of this, right? I do, he admitted. I also know you won't. When Naruto just sighed, Shikamaru reached over and pinched her arm, hard. She yelped, grabbing her arm. Did that hurt? Yes. Naruto screeched, glaring at Shikamaru. Good. Now I've hurt you on purpose, which is worse than by accident. You have nothing to be sorry about. That's not how it works, she yelled, throwing her hands up. You don't understand. Now let me go. You're scared 'cause you lost control and hurt me. You're afraid that it will happen again. It won't, because I know you're strong enough and determined enough to stop it. Shikamaru looked her hard in the eye, refusing to back down. What if you're wrong? Then it's my own fault if I get hurt. I'm the one who gets to decide if the pain is worth your company, not you. It doesn't work that way, Naruto yelled. She yelped when he pinched her again, harder this time. Ouch. Stop doing that. Is it going to stop you from being my friend? No. Then why the hell would I care about the pain you caused me? The dark-haired boy yelled. His throat was unaccustomed to the volume. I'm hurting you on purpose, and you still see me as a friend. You need to get it into your head that I care about you. There is nothing that will change that. So you need to accept it and forgive yourself. Naruto sighed and deflated like a balloon. She nodded before Shikamaru let his shadow retract, freeing her. When Shikamaru reached out to grasp her hand, she flinched once before letting him take it. Come on, I'm hungry. He gave her hand a tug, making her walk with him. He led Naruto to the barbecue place. Once they were seated in front of the grill, Naruto started to fidget. Figuring she wanted him to let go of her hand, he did so, only for her to keep fidgeting. After raising an eyebrow at her, she blushed. I have an itch on my back, but my binds make it hard to scratch, so I'm trying to get the binds to rub it. A smile came over her face. There, got it. Shikamaru cleared his throat, being reminded of the other day. About that, why do you wear them? Why hide who you are? The blonde looked down, her eyes clouding. Well, people thought I was a boy when I was little. The midwife who looked after me at the orphanage liked to cut my hair short and dress me in boys' clothing. She called me a boy too. She was horrible. When I moved out, boys' clothing was cheaper and lasted longer, though I did get some girls' clothing from the donation bin. But then you were attacked, Shikamaru finished softly. Right, your dad would have told you. She gave him a small smile when he took her hand, giving it a squeeze. After that, the old man told me to dress like a boy and cut my hair. I wasn't to correct anyone when they called me a boy either. He said he was worried about the village escalating. At the time, I didn't understand how my gender could affect their violence. He was worried about. Bao rose into his throat. The old man didn't actually think they would, and neither do I, Naruto quickly assured. But he was being safe. When I started to show as a girl, I started binding my chest. But you aren't attacked anymore, are you? Why don't you just reveal yourself? He blushed. That was poor phrasing. Naruto chuckled into her hand. I should worry that you might be a pervert. And she took a breath, clearly choosing her words, before ticking the reasons off on her fingers. I'm used to dressing this way. I'd have a lot of people not believe me and think I'm just trying to perv on girls. Sakura would probably punch me. And I. She stopped, swallowing thickly. Part of me is scared that they'll still hurt me. Shikamaru squeezed her hand again. That won't happen. I'll make sure of it. He smiled back at Naruto before frowning in confusion. Why did you answer the door in, you know? A towel? When the man blushed and looked away, Naruto laughed. I knew it was you at the door and thought that if you didn't know already, I could trust you and that you had the right to know. Shikamaru put his elbow on the wooden strip of table, his chin resting in his palm. He smiled at Naruto, rubbing his thumb over the back of her hand. I did think you were a girl, but I had no way of being sure. A look crossed Naruto's face. A mixture of amusement and confusion. Didn't think to look for an Adam's apple? Shikamaru groaned, face palming. Why didn't I think of that? No, instead you had to see me in a towel to confirm it. Naruto laughed as Shikamaru turned red. Can we just forget it? He whined desperately. A groan rumbled in his throat when he heard another laugh. You should know this isn't going away, Shikamaru. Naruto gave a squeal when Shikamaru's free hand shot out to cover her mouth. He could feel her laughing against his palm still and couldn't help but join in. The moment ended quickly though, when Naruto realized that both Shikamaru's hands were on her. She flinched, making him drop his hand from her mouth. He knew it was useless arguing with her still. It would take her some time before she learned to trust herself again, but at least she allowed him to have some contact with her. And he could make her forget, even for a moment, what happened. You know, Naruto Uzumaki, the shadow ninja, mouthful that you are, he smiled when Naruto threw her head back with a laugh. I had no reason to think you were a girl. I've never actually seen you dress in girls' clothing. I expected you to return to the village looking like a girl. I'm wearing girls' pants right now, Naruto retorted in fake disgust. She grinned, pointing a finger at the genius. You just want to see me in a dress, you pervert. I'm not a pervert, Shikamaru whispered hastily, worried that someone would overhear. Naruto leant forward, meeting him with a challenging stare. Satin underwear. He could feel the heat coming off his face at the blush those two words caused. Naruto just snorted and reached into her pocket with her free hand. Pulling out a picture, she handed it to the dark-haired boy, looking far too amused as she did. Riko gave me this earlier. Turning it over, Shikamaru recognized Riko on the left, in a baggy shirt over what looked like swimmers, Haruki in the middle in nothing but swimming trunks, and a blonde woman he recognized after a moment as Naruto. Except it was nothing like the Naruto he knew. Her body was half turned towards Haruki's side, her hand on her hip. Her hair was long, but clipped at the back of her head, her fringe framing her eyes and making the blue more vivid. She smiled at the camera easily, one of her real smiles. What threw Shikamaru at first was her clothing. He could see the back strap of her swimming bra, since her high-necked dress had no back. The dress was white that burnt into a deep orange at her mid-thigh and showed off her figure better than the towel had. Ninja training had given her a muscular form while still leaving it feminine. "Well, you definitely look like a girl." He swallowed, handing the picture back. "I like your hair like that." "Thanks. I cut it just before I came back." He almost asked why. Luckily, the waiter came over with the meat they had ordered, stopping him long enough for him to realize how stupid his question would have been. Naruto let go of his hand to start putting food onto the grill. Clearing his throat, he thought it would be best to change the topic before he said anything stupid. "So what's this training Kakashi-sensei wants you doing?" "Not sure. It'll make me strong enough to take on Sasuke. So I won't have to stop Sasuke from stabbing me." "How is it going with the new teammate?" He watched her poke at a slice of meat, wondering if this topic would turn out as bad as the last. Unfortunately, the only other thing he could think of was a question he didn't think he should ask. "All right. He's weird, but he can fight, and he wants to be on the team, which is good. He likes to study me, though. He wants to learn emotions, which means he gets about an inch away from my face and stares." Shikamaru nodded absently, catching himself as his eyes slid down for the third time. "Okay, I have to ask, how do you hide your chest so well, even without your jacket on? The question has been bugging me." Naruto snorted before a loud laugh passed her lips. "Next you'll be asking me what kind of underwear I'm wearing." "Well, if you're offering," he joked with a sly smile. That got to her. She started laughing so hard she fell sideways in the bench, covering her mouth to try and muffle the sound. Finally she sat up, trying to swallow down her chuckles. "I wear chest binds, and when I'm not in my jacket I use transformation jutsu." She shrugged. "Like I said, Sakura would punch me if she found out, especially if she found out I wasn't as flat as her. Sasuke knows. He worked it out. Probably 'cause we've gotten into so many fights. I'm guessing your doctors were told to refer to you as a boy by the third Hokage." "Yep. Old Granny knows. She still isn't sure if I like boys or girls, though. Riko has made that worse." Shikamaru shook his head. "You like torturing that woman." "It's our thing." By the time the two left the restaurant, Shikamaru's cheeks hurt and Naruto was groaning about having ate too much. She had one hand resting on her stomach protectively as they walked down the street. "I swear I'm going to burst." Unable to help himself, he reached out and poked her stomach, making her hit his hand away with an annoyed groan. He laughed at the pouting glare she sent at him. "Looks like you two are having fun." Looking ahead, the genius spotted Ino and Sakura. He tried to give his teammate a half smile in reply to her words but grimaced. "My face hurts." "That's what happened when you actually smile for once." Naruto poked him in the cheek in retaliation to his earlier assault. She snapped her hand back when he tried to bite her finger. Looking back at the other two girls, Shikamaru found Ino frowning at the two in confusion. He could understand, seeing as in all the years they had known each other she probably hadn't seen him act so carefree and somewhat impulsive. Sakura didn't appear to notice anything odd with the behavior of the two. "How's Kakashi-sensei?" Naruto asked, hitting Shikamaru's hand away from poking her stomach again, never looking away from Sakura. "He's healing quickly, but he'll still be in the hospital for a couple more days." I bet he's just trying to get out of training me for a while. I'm going to stay in his room until he can finally start my training." With that, the energetic blonde ran off, being trailed by Sakura, who was calling her an idiot and telling her to slow down. "I didn't realize you two were so close," Ino commented. "I thought Naruto would get on your nerves." "Nah, he's fun to be around. And I can't predict him, so it's never boring. Shikamaru shrugged, walking off to find a good spot to watch the clouds. Chapter 31, Illogical. He hadn't seen Naruto for almost a week. When she had said she was going to stay in Kakashi-sensei's hospital room, he had thought she was exaggerating. It was his own fault for doubting the unusual behavior of the blonde. When he finally did see her again, she wanted to talk to Asuma-sensei about wind-style abilities. It was a little disheartening, but he knew that she needed to train to be able to handle the Akatsuki and Sasuke. The next time he saw her, he was with the entire team Asuma, getting ready to go on a high-ranked mission. Naruto was complaining about having to stop training to go on a low-ranked mission. He knew it was to keep her distracted from his own mission that may involve the Akatsuki, but truthfully they could have just left her training, and she would have been none the wiser. "Hey Naruto, how you doing? What's up with your training?" he asked, his heart starting to beat heavily in his throat. He didn't bother to greet the others. He didn't know Naruto's new captain, or Sai, and truthfully he disliked Sakura. Suspended on the account of some stupid mission, Naruto griped. "Ino, are you guys heading out too?" Sakura asked. "That's right." Ino nodded. "We're all together again." "Hey, what are you all doing here?" Shikamaru looked over at Konohamaru's voice, seeing the young boy walking over, holding a cat, with his team. "Konohamaru." Naruto stepped towards the boy. "So are you off on another mission, Naruto?" "Unfortunately." Naruto started to joke with the boy about having to find lost cats whilst also praising him. Konohamaru glowed under Naruto's words. It surprised Shikamaru to discover that Naruto didn't know Konohamaru and Asuma-sensei were related. He almost dropped his head into his hands when he discovered that his own teammates hadn't known either. Asuma-sensei looked uncomfortable with Naruto's attention until the blonde voiced how much she liked the idea of their chakra natures giving them a connection. Without even thinking to say goodbye, the girl ran off, not that Shikamaru was surprised. It relaxed Shikamaru to know that Asuma-sensei trusted Naruto's captain, Yamato, with Naruto's life. Naruto's status to the village was important, so no matter how the two men saw the blonde, her protection was still important. The mission team Asuma went on was highly disheartening. They visited 3 villages and found all of them demolished, almost every one person dead. There was no indication that the Akatsuki were behind the attacks, but a sense of dread entered Shikamaru. The fact that his superiors had no trouble believing the destruction could be caused by the Akatsuki gave him an indication of just how dangerous they were. Although Naruto was strong and was training to become even stronger, Shikamaru was starting to doubt the blonde's ability to win against them. He had preferred it when Sasuke was the biggest threat to Naruto's safety. They returned to the village without having engaged in a fight but feeling more beat down than any battle could cause. Asuma-sensei told them he would report to Lady Sanada himself, something that made all of them sigh with relief. Shikamaru decided to walk Ino to the hospital where she was going to complete some paperwork. She was shaking. As he walked out of the hospital, he saw Naruto walking with Sai, arguing with him. The pale boy had his arm in a sling and his usual neutral expression. Naruto had one hand on Sai's shoulder, but had her body as far away from him as she could. With a smile, Shikamaru went up to Naruto and Sai. When Sai spotted him, he tried to walk closer with a fake smile on his face. Naruto quickly tightened her hold on Sai's shoulder, pulling him back. "You're not going to try and kiss him too, are you?" Naruto hissed. "No, he does not look like he needs comforting. And you don't look like you need me to walk you the rest of the way to the hospital." Naruto pushed him towards the hospital before smiling at Shikamaru and walking up to him. "Watch him, he gets weird ideas in his head." "What are you doing?" Shikamaru had pulled Naruto into his arms in the middle of the street. He buried his face in her neck and tried to calm the anxiety that was filling him. "Are you okay, Shikamaru?" Naruto asked as he held her tighter. "People are staring, just so you know." "Let them." He took a shattering breath. It's alright." Naruto hugged him back, rubbing his back to calm him down. "Talk to me," Shikamaru muttered. "About what?" "Anything." "Okay, well, my team has to look after some guy named Sora. My training is going well, though I nearly collapsed the other day from lack of food, so I'm going to have to remember to eat more. There are a lot of nice clouds in the sky today. You should make sure to take some time to look at them. You'll like that." The more Naruto talked, the more Shikamaru's heart rate lowered until it reached its regular pace. Finally, he pulled his head out of the grove of Naruto's neck. He pulled back and kissed her on the cheek, only to notice Sai walking back towards them. The wait was too long. "They will see me after we talk to Lady Tsunade," Sai explained. "I'll let you go. I want to wash this horrible day off me anyway." Shikamaru accepted the hug Naruto gave him before dropping his arms to his side. He was thankful to find he had the house to himself. After his shower, he took the time to read before meeting up with Choji to look at getting some lunch. They were walking down a flight of stairs, heading to the shopping district when they noticed Naruto, Kiba, and Akamaru standing with a stranger. The moment Choji and he drew attention to themselves, the newcomer called Choji fat. Naruto tried to pacify the situation with little luck. Shikamaru felt sorry for her, but short of the guy apologizing, there was nothing that could stop Choji from attacking him. The stranger clearly wanted to fight though and kept egging on Choji and Kiba. When they started brawling, Naruto sighed, clearly torn between letting the kid learn a lesson and protecting him. Finally, she jumped the fence and tried to stop the fight with little luck. It was only when Asuma-sensei joined Shikamaru and Lee had jumped into the fight that the two dark-haired men decided to end the fight themselves. Whilst Asuma-sensei blocked the attacks between Naruto and the new kid, Shikamaru grabbed Lee, Kiba, and Akamaru in Kiba form, with his shadow possession. Unfortunately, they forgot to stop Choji, who came barreling at Shikamaru's face. Although he trained with Choji often, he hadn't been on the receiving end of one of his attacks. He had a newfound appreciation for his friend's strength, as his behind hit the pavement, but all the same he wasn't too thrilled with it all. Those who participated in the fight were rewarded with a bump to the head from Asuma-sensei before he decided they should all go get barbecue. Shikamaru was a little preoccupied trying to fix the bent railing that Choji had damaged. When they got to the barbecue place, Shikamaru discovered that the antagonistic stranger's name was Sora, and he was part of Team Kakashi for his own safety. Naruto didn't seem too thrilled to be stuck babysitting someone who clearly liked picking fights, but she was going to follow her orders. It caught Shikamaru's attention that Asuma-sensei cut Sora off when he started to mention his father. He knew his sensei well enough to know he had done that on purpose but chose to keep it to himself. Eventually, Kiba asked about how Sora came to be on Team Kakashi. Naruto gave a brief explanation about how people had attacked them, and they had brought Sora to the village for his safety. Under her breath, the blonde muttered how it was hardly safer with the way he acted. Shikamaru couldn't help but snigger at that, getting a glare off Sora, who clearly didn't know what he was laughing at. "Oh, Kiba, I can now tell you I've been kissed by a female." Naruto grinned down the table at the male. "She was an enemy who tried to take my chakra through a kiss." "And how was that?" Kiba laughed. "I can honestly say that it was disgusting, and I'm sticking to men, thanks." Shikamaru laughed along with the other boys, minus Asuma-sensei and Sora, who looked confused. "So, counting Sasuke," Naruto groaned at Kiba's words, "how many people have you kissed?" "Or been kissed by?" Choji added, not wanting Naruto to squirm out of the answer. Naruto shyly held up 4 fingers. That didn't surprise Shikamaru. Adding the woman Naruto mentioned, he knew who each person was. "How many of them have you kissed more than once?" Kiba asked, looking far too amused at the blonde's blushing face. She dropped 2 fingers. "Was one of them Sasuke?" Choji asked, grinning around Shikamaru. Naruto groaned loudly, making Asuma-sensei smile, before falling back onto the floor. "Bite me." Now, I'm not your type," Choji teased, making Naruto give a soft scream. "You were at one point." "Shikamaru!" Naruto sat up sharply, pushing the laughing boy over. She buried her head in her hands. "To answer your earlier question, no, I haven't kissed Sasuke more than that one accident. And the woman only kissed me once." Shikamaru frowned, realizing the math didn't work out. Haruki had kissed Naruto multiple times, but he was the other person who had kissed Naruto, and he had only done so once. Unless she was counting the times he had kissed her on the cheek. He couldn't exactly ask her in front of everyone, so instead decided to enjoy the conversation where Naruto taunted Choji and Kiba for not having kissed as many people, and Lee innocently asked them how many people they had kissed. This caused both boys to turn red. Unfortunately, Shikamaru's sniggers drew his friends' attentions. "What about you, Shikamaru?" Lee asked loudly. In response, Shikamaru put a piece of barbecued meat into his mouth and held up one finger. Unlike the other two, he did not turn red. "What about you, Lee?" "Oh, he scratched his cheek. A gentleman never tells." "Apparently a gentleman can ask others, though," Kiba yelled, getting into Lee's face. "You're just mad that I've kissed more girls than you have and I don't even like them," taunted Naruto. It was Kiba's turn to groan as the others laughed. Over the years he had seen almost every emotion that Naruto had. She wasn't known for keeping a stoic expression, so he had easily learned what she was feeling based on her face and body language. What he saw now scared him. He had never seen her so tense. Her shoulders were pulled back, her fists clenching and unclenching, and her face wasn't screwed up into its usual angry expression but instead was hard and cold. He stopped walking to study the situation he was about to enter. Naruto was glaring at Sora, who was talking to Captain Yamato. He could see Sakura and Ino standing off from the three, chatting to each other. With a deep breath, Shikamaru walked up to Naruto, speaking before he was within hitting distance in case he surprised her. "Naruto, can I talk to you?" The blonde gave a small sigh of relief before nodding and walking away from her two teammates. Once they were out of earshot, Shikamaru stopped. "What's wrong?" It looked as though Naruto was trying to fight against the tirade of words in her head but lost. "I want to strangle him. I can't stand to be around him, and every minute I have to spend with him makes it worse." Naruto clenched her hands as though choking an invisible man. "Is Sora still getting into fights?" Shikamaru put his hands in his pockets with a sigh. "No. He's actually been good lately. I don't know why I feel like ripping his head off, but I do." The anger Naruto felt looked painful. Her throat sounded constricted and torn as she growled with rage. "I just need time away, so I can breathe, but I keep getting stuck with babysitting," Naruto ranted, throwing her hands up in frustration. "But Sakura is working at the hospital and people need her, whereas I'd just be training and I can do some of my training with Sora there, so I'm the only one who can do it because I'm not needed elsewhere. But he's driving me nuts and I can't stop it." "Okay," Shikamaru grabbed Naruto's shoulders. "Breath. I'll deal with this. Stay here." He walked over to where Sakura and Ino had joined Captain Yamato and Sora. With a clearing of his throat, he drew the attention of the two girls. "Sakura," he started with a smile, "what are you doing right now?" Nothing," the pinkette answered, looking confusing. "Excellent. You can look after Sora while Naruto takes a break." Before she could reply, he turned around, grabbing Naruto's hand as he jogged past, pulling her along behind him. He heard her give a laugh, which just made him smile. He didn't stop until they reached the Nara estate, since Sakura could hardly follow and demand Naruto leave on Shikamaru's property. They ended up decided to play shogi on the porch, once Shikamaru assured Naruto that Sakura had the time to look after Sora. The game ended up being equal parts frustrating and amusing for the dark-haired boy. Whilst Naruto knew the rules of shogi now, she often chose to ignore them. "You shouldn't move your gold general there," Shikamaru advised. "Why not?" "It's not logical." "That's the perfect reason to do it." Shikamaru frowned at the grinning blonde. "How so?" "The illogical thing is the best strategy, 'cause no one sees it coming." "That doesn't work in shogi." "Why not?" "You said it's to learn battle strategies." "In battle I find the illogical solution is the best one, so I'm moving my general here." Shikamaru grabbed her wrist, rolling his eyes at her. "There are rules in shogi." Naruto pushed herself up so she was on her hands and knees. "But it's more fun my way. You've been at your most fun when you were being I-Log-I-Cal." Naruto moved her hips with each syllable, reminding Shikamaru of a puppy. When she went to put her general down again, Shikamaru smirked, getting a wickedly illogical idea in his head. Before he could second-guess himself, he tackled Naruto, making them both roll off the porch and onto the ground. They landed next to each other, Naruto's arm ending up under Shikamaru's ribs in a painful manner. Nevertheless, they were both laughing. Shikamaru rolled so he could flop onto the girl's body, his back pressed against her torso. He let his weight go dead, making Naruto groan under the pressure. "Get off me! You're heavy." "I'm not heavy, I'm illogical," Shikamaru taunted as Naruto tried to push him off and failed. "You're crushing me," she yelled. He moved so that his head was next to Naruto's. "You might finally be flat-chested enough to be honest with Sakura." When Naruto started to scowl, he licked her cheek, making her squeal with shock. "What the hell, Shikamaru? You did say I was most fun when I was being illogical." "Shikamaru, are you home?" His mother's voice rang from inside the house, making the two ninja freeze. Shikamaru quickly rolled off Naruto, crouching behind the porch ledge and putting his finger to his lips. Once Naruto was on her feet in a similar position to the Chunin, he grabbed her hand and ran as quickly and quietly as he could towards the Nara forest at the back of his estate. Once they were hidden in the trees, Shikamaru sighed with relief. He was still holding Naruto's hand, who was looking around. Something had caught her eye deeper in the forest. Before Shikamaru could warn her about the Nara forest, she took off with an excited look on her face, her hands slipping from Shikamaru's grasp. "No!" He took chase, hoping none of the deer would attack before he had a chance to reach the blonde. He spotted what Naruto was after, and his heart dropped to his knees. "Brief, you don't?" Naruto reached the large stag, stopping short of touching him. She looked like an eager child as she held out her hand to pat his snout. If Shikamaru didn't reach her in time, it would be disastrous. "Naruto, step back!" he yelled as he jumped over a tree root. "Why?" Naruto looked over her shoulder at Shikamaru. Shikamaru's eyes widened when Briefyu walked closer to Naruto. His heart stopped, and he stumbled. He watched as Briefyu pushed Naruto's cheek with his nose, getting the girl's attention before walking in front of her, allowing her to see his stature. Naruto held out her hand, patting his side as he passed. Straightening up, the Nara watched in shock as the stag let Naruto gawk and pat him. "Why were you so worried, Shikamaru? This particular forest belongs to the Nara clan. No one outside our clan can enter here alone and wander around. If they do, they will be attacked. Even some people married to a Nara member can't come in here alone. When you ran off, I thought you'd be attacked, especially by Briefyu." Shikamaru glared at the stag, who was still prancing around Naruto, showing off. The stag stood taller than Naruto, with his black horns making him look even taller. "Why would he attack me? He seems so friendly." Naruto rubbed his neck, watching as he lifted his head to give her better access. "Well, the Nara deer are a little different to other deer. The stags stay with the group and don't really fight. As long as the males all acknowledge who is strongest, they are happy. Briefyu is the strongest male, and therefore the most aggressive to outsiders. I guess I was close enough that he didn't attack you. Don't come in here without me from now on, though." Briefyu shook his head before running off in an arc, clearly showing Naruto his speed. "Show off," Shikamaru muttered, making Naruto laugh. "Hey, I've been meaning to ask, why did you tell the guys that you've kissed two people more than once? As one of those guys, I know personally that I've only kissed you once." "That you don't remember," Naruto cheekily replied. "Like I said, you're more fun when you're illogical." "I see." Shikamaru walked closer to Naruto before putting a hand at the back of her head and kissing her. The force made her stumble back into a tree, causing them to laugh and break the kiss. "That did not turn out the way I wanted." "Probably cause you always ask when you are illogical and want a kiss," Naruto muttered back. "Can I have a kiss?" Shikamaru asked before putting his lips against hers. He could feel her smile. Wrapping his free arm around her waist, he pulled her closer. Although he couldn't remember their second kiss, he failed to care at that moment. Naruto's hands gripped his shoulders, helping to close the gap in their heights. He could easily ignore the way that the tree bark scratched against his arm if it meant he could have his arm wrapped around Naruto, and he could ignore the way Naruto's forehead protector bumped against his skin if it meant he could kiss Naruto. There was, however, something he couldn't ignore. With a frustrated grunt, Shikamaru pulled back to glare at Briefyu, who pushed against his head again with his nose. "It looks like I have some competition," Shikamaru muttered before looking back at Naruto. She was staring at Shikamaru's collarbone, biting her lip. Her eyes were clouded over as she mumbled under her breath. "I shouldn't be doing this. It'll just hurt." He assumed he had heard wrong, or she was talking about biting her lip, since he couldn't see how she would get hurt. Pushing Briefyu away, Shikamaru turned his attention back to Naruto, building his courage. "Naruto, well, for a while I've..." He felt as though a wall had came down, blocking him from that one string of words that was so critical for him to say. He couldn't understand what was stopping him. He didn't feel afraid about saying them, but there was definitely a mental block. Instead of trying and failing again, he kissed her. "If you want to get away again, I'm sure Briefyu would like to see you." He took her hand and led her out of the forest, Briefyu walking beside them until they reached the edge. "Shikamaru, what are you doing?" Shikamaru nearly jumped at his father's voice, making him look over at the older Nara. "Hiding from Mum." He shrugged. "Thanks for helping me take time away from looking after Sora." Naruto scratched the back of her head, blushing lightly. Shikamaru cleared his throat, realizing why she was blushing. "No problem, anytime." He chose to not analyze how that might sound before turning to his father. "Were you looking for me?" "Yes, I would like to talk about your last mission, if you and Naruto are done." Shikaka looked between the two, making his son fidget. The last thing he needed was his father studying them, and realizing exactly how Shikamaru and Naruto had used Naruto's break. "I should go find Sakura and take over looking after Sora. She probably has work to do." Naruto gave them both a smile and ran off. "Even if she doesn't, she'll dump Sora on Naruto anyway," Shikamaru grumbled. Looking at his father, who had a raised eyebrow, he sighed, resigning himself to the fact that he had to talk about the horrible mission the day before. It made sense that Sora's presence had the ability to make Naruto's blood boil. No doubt the Ninetales and Naruto could sense his chakra in Sora and probably had aggressive feelings towards its use. Or perhaps Sora's emotions affected Naruto's on some level. It was hard for Shikamaru to tell. They had followed Akamaru's nose and the light that appeared to a section of the forest. The forest had been cleared of trees in a 20-meter radius around Sora. The boy was almost unrecognizable when they had arrived. His face was deformed and he was covered in red chakra that had pointy ears and a tail. They could see Naruto was trying to talk Sora down with little result. When the boy tried to strike at her, Shikamaru acted, getting him in a shadow possession. Once Choji had a hold of Sora, though, the boy started talking, asking Naruto about the Ninetales inside her. Shikamaru heard the gasp from Ino, and could see the look of horror that appeared on Choji's face. He wanted to stop Sora from talking, but it was too late. Naruto answered his question about how she had friends, admitting to how lonely she had been as a child and how she drew attention to herself to be noticed. Shikamaru wished he could say that Naruto was able to talk Sora down, but the boy started to lose control again, showing them just how powerful even part of the Ninetales could be. The chakra enveloping him burnt Choji's hands, making him release Sora. Ino couldn't take control of Sora's mind and broke the jutsu with a terrified scream. Shikamaru's chakra eventually ran out. He was helpless as he watched Naruto meet the force of the three-tailed Sora head-on and get pushed back. She stood back up and went to enter battle again, only for Captain Yamato to hit Sora with a barrage that was of little use. The power of the Ninetales was terrifying, made worse by watching Naruto constantly struggle to pull Sora back. Shikamaru couldn't help but wonder if Naruto had to fight like this within her own mind against the real beast. Shikamaru tried to stop Sora, only to feel how inferior he was to Sora's current strength. They all tried to fight and were thrown back repeatedly, as Naruto watched on. When the rest of them could no longer fight, Naruto came forward, nursing her arm and talking in a weak voice. Sora attacked her, making her summon shadow clones but with no luck. Finally, Naruto simply grabbed Sora's shoulders, even as the chakra burnt her, and yelled at him. Dread pooled in Shikamaru's stomach as Captain Yamato yelled for Naruto to move back. The chakra surrounding Sora spread onto Naruto, forcing a transformation that Captain Yamato could not stop. Naruto didn't transform the same way Sora did. Her fawn teeth grew, her hair became more unruly, her eyes turned red, and claws grew, but she still looked like Naruto. Shikamaru watched, mortified, as Naruto tried to fight Sora and the Ninetales inside herself. Her skin started peeling away, and to gain control, Naruto stabbed herself in the leg. Every part of him wanted to run in and help her, but he knew he would just be a liability. He had to trust she could do it. And he was right. He admired her resolve as the red chakra disappeared and only a burnt-looking Naruto was left. It was almost all for nothing when Sakura ran in to heal Naruto minutes later, and Naruto had to block her from Sora's attack. Shikamaru had been worried about being a liability, whilst Sakura's actions nearly cost her teammate her life. They were forced to hide in the forest, not able to see the fight. If they ventured any closer in their state, they might be killed or get Naruto injured. Instead, they were forced to sit and wait. He could tell that Lee and Kiba wanted to help Naruto fight, but whenever they mentioned that thing, a shadow came over their faces. He could not tell what they thought of the Ninetales being in someone, or even if they had fully come to terms with it. When they had gathered strength, they ventured to the tree line, only to see Sora's body start to reject the Ninetales chakra. Shikamaru wasn't sure what actually happened, which was a first for him. The chakra left Sora, taking on the appearance of the Ninetales' head before disappearing completely. They cautiously climbed down into the crater the two were in and assured Sora that he was their friend. They all even laughed at Naruto teasing Sia. However, Shikamaru could see the guarded looks they all sent Naruto's way. Thankfully, the girl was too injured to notice. Sora and Naruto were taken to the hospital with Sia shortly before Lady Tsunade found them all for a report. Captain Yamato, Shikamaru, and Asuma-sensei did all the talking as the others stood back. Kiba glared at the ground, Choji and Lee were frowning, Sakura had went with her teammates, and Ino was biting her thumbnail, which she only did when she was both angry and scared. "Very well, thank you," Lady Tsunade said when they were done, turning to walk away. "Hey, wait a minute!" Kiba snapped, marching forward. "I want answers. What the hell happened out there with Naruto?" "We have a right to know," added Choji with a growl. Lady Tsunade sighed heavily. "Come to my office if you can't wait, and I'll explain everything." Shikamaru wished he could put his fingers in his ears and block everything out. He wished he could go back to before his friends knew about Naruto, but he couldn't. Now he was going to have to watch as they fully came to terms with the information they were given, and would have to see how they handled it. Naruto might not have as many friends as she did before starting tomorrow. He was going to make sure that her side was heard, though, that they knew she was no different than the girl they went to school with. He just hoped his words didn't fall on deaf ears. Chapter 32, Closest. Shikamaru had hoped to limit the number of people who were included in the Ninetales conversation. Unfortunately, Kiba actively looked for his teammates to ensure they were there for the discussion, leading to Lee also looking for his teammates. Once Hinata, Shino, Niji, and Tenten were located, they all went to Lady Tsunade's office. Shikamaru sighed, leaning against the wall beside the door. Everyone who witnessed Naruto's transformation wore a grim expression, staring at Lady Tsunade expectantly. "I would like to start at the beginning and would appreciate it if I didn't have to stop or repeat myself." Lady Tsunade took a deep breath. When the Ninetales attacked the village 16 years ago, it was after it broke out of the person housing it. "Housing it?" Tenten spoke up, looking confused. Lady Tsunade silenced her with a glare. "They are called Jinchuriki, those who have a tailed beast inside them. When the Ninetales attacked, and his old host died, the fourth Hokage had to choose a new Jinchuriki. And it had to be an Uzumaki." Hinata's eyes widened as she gasped. "Naruto," she whispered. "Yes. Naruto was born the day the Ninetales attacked, and was the only other Uzumaki in the village besides the host. Even if I had been in the village, I would not have been a good candidate." At the questioning looks, Lady Tsunade sighed. "My grandmother was an Uzumaki. Naruto was chosen and the village was banned from speaking of it. Even though the fourth had wanted Naruto to be seen as a hero for what he did, he was mistreated by the village. This is why, even when Niji became a Jonin, it was not divulged to any of you. As most of you have now seen, the seal on the Ninetales has weakened. Captain Yamato was put onto Team 7 to ensure the Ninetales does not break free. Lady Tsunade finished speaking and surveyed the group. Shikamaru watched as a frown deepened on Kiba's forehead. Hinata's breathing became erratic, and Lee chewed his lip enough to make blood drip onto his chin. Pushing himself off the wall with his elbow, Shikamaru cleared his throat. Even though the seal has weakened, nothing has changed. Naruto is still the same kid we've always known. And those who saw him tonight can attest to the fact that he can control the Nine Tails, can force it back inside. I don't believe any of us would have the strength to do the same. But we've only known Naruto whilst he has had the Nine Tails in him, have we not? Shino asked in an even voice. When he received a hesitant nod off of Shikamaru, he went on. So we have only ever known the Jinchuriki? Well, yes. This is sick. Kiba cut over Lady Tsunade, standing up and pacing, his hands clenched into fists. You're telling me that the beast that destroyed the village when I was a baby is inside that idiot? Kiba, Shikamaru growled, stepping forward. He's right, it is sick, Hinata piped up, tears trickling down her cheeks. How could this happen? Naruto. You are honestly disgusted? Shikamaru snapped, glaring from Hinata to Kiba. Aren't you? Shino asked. I thought out of everyone you would be the most outraged from this. I don't see why we should be mad, or disgusted. Choji had a hard look on his face as he addressed the other team, Ino standing beside him with her arms crossed. Naruto is a good ninja and a good friend. He has never hurt us, and he forgave me when I hurt him. Just because he has the Nine Tails in him doesn't change anything. Like Shino pointed out, we've only known Naruto whilst he was the Nine Tails, Lee added. Container for the Nine Tails, Shikamaru corrected. Naruto is not the Nine Tails. And Kiba, if you think he is, and are so disgusted by Naruto, then you can shove it. What? Kiba frowned. I'm not disgusted at Naruto. How could you think that? He's my friend. I'm repulsed by the village. He was the only one who could hold the Nine Tails, save us from that thing, and the village has treated him like crap for that. I always thought it was cause his pranks bugged them that badly. To think it was cause of something like this. Why the hell did I become a ninja? I don't want to protect idiots who would hurt a child for something they had no choice in. Poor Naruto, Hinata muttered. He's had to be so strong for so many years. You're not disgusted at Naruto? Ino asked, shooting a look at Shikamaru. Of course not. As I pointed out, we have only ever known Naruto as a Jinchuriki. How can we hate our friend simply because we have discovered something new about him? Shino handed Hinata a tissue. Shikamaru stared at each person hard, before letting the fear and anger leave his body. Sighing, he slumped his shoulders, shoving his hands into his pockets. It's been a long night, and we still have injured to attend to. Ino, I want you in the hospital. The rest of you help to get the wounded aid, and clear away any debris that needs clearing. Then you can all rest. It took 2 days for the village to look reasonably cleared. Luckily, the damage to the population was mainly injuries. Once he had finished helping clear rubble, and had rested, he had gone to the hospital to see Naruto, only to be told she had left an hour before. Sora was still there and would be for another 2 days at least, but Naruto had healed, thanks to the Nine Tails. According to the nurse, Naruto had run from the hospital the moment she was allowed. He had tried to track her down, since he knew she wouldn't be training so soon after her injuries. Unfortunately, after half a day, his brain decided to suggest something that made his search difficult. Maybe Naruto didn't want to be found. The thought chilled him. If she didn't want to be found, there was no way to find her. She could sense him coming and easily hide. Her transformation jutsus were amazing, and he knew that her sensing range was quite impressive. As much as he wanted to find her, he was also impressed with how much she had grown since the academy. On chakra alone she beat the rest of them. The only way he could beat her in a fight was to plan for every contingency, but even then she could disarm him with a smile. When he saw the others from his academy days, the first question Hinata asked was if he had seen Naruto. Disappointment covered her face as she saw Shikamaru shake his head. He sat on the grass next to her, throwing himself back into a lying position. He can't be training again, can he? Ino asked, picking at her nails. I know he heals fast, but surely Lady Tsunade wouldn't allow him to train so soon after what happened. I think he's avoiding us, Shikamaru sighed. Why? You all took his secret better than I thought you would, said Sakura. When I found out, it made sense that my parents always told me to stay away from him. He's dangerous. Shikamaru flew into a sitting position, a glare on his face. Before he had a chance to speak, Kiba started yelling. Your parents were one of the ones to do that? His face started turning red. He lowered his voice when he noticed others at the park were looking over. How could they do that? Naruto is a good kid. He's a bit of an idiot, but I always know where I stand with him. He doesn't use people and he's kind-hearted. Why wouldn't your parents want you having a friend like that? I'm glad my mum never told me to stay away from him. My parents never did, Choji added, Ino nodding along. My parents told me to be careful around him, but I believe it was because when my bugs were first put into me his loud voice rattled them. Shino crossed his arms, staring at Sakura. Do you truly believe your parents were doing the right thing? They were scared, Sakura defended. That wasn't an answer to the question I asked, Shino retorted calmly. Do you believe that they should have kept you away from Naruto, and made you hate him? For you did hate him before you became team members, or at least disliked him and was prone to hitting him. She still does that, Shikamaru muttered. But our parents didn't know him. How were they to know what kind of person he was? They only knew what kind of monster the Ninetales is. Sakura smiled at them all as though they just didn't understand. But that's the point, Hinata spoke up with a hard look in her eyes. They never bothered to find out what kind of person Naruto was. They just judged him. It's only since Naruto became a ninja and shown his abilities that the village has started to accept him. Sakura rolled her eyes. I don't have time to argue with you. I have other things I have to do. She left, with Hinata glaring at her back. Without conflict around him, Shikamaru let his mind drift. He was free until the next mission came up and he had intended to search for Naruto, but he decided to try and relax a little before resuming. The others talked around him, but he failed to hear them. Eventually the topic moved to lunch. Choji asked what Shikamaru wanted, since they wanted all the options. Before he could reply, Shikamaru jumped to his feet, bolting for the village gates. He caught a glimpse of yellow and orange headed in that direction, and before he could think about it, he had ran. Rounding the corner, he saw Naruto talking to Sora, who was covered in bandages. She stood with her team, and seemed to be saying goodbye to Sora. Once the boy walked away, Naruto turned, spotting him coming towards her. Her eyes went wide and she stopped walking. Instantly she disappeared in a cloud of smoke. Shadow clone, he thought, cursing. He had his answer. She was actively avoiding them, including sending out clones when she needed to move around the village. He returned to the others, feeling defeated, to tell them what happened. 2 days. That's how long he lasts before he snaps. 2 days, and overhearing a comment from Sakura to do with Naruto training, that's what it took. He turned around, ignoring what his father was saying to him, and marched off. He hoped that she wouldn't remember telling him where she was training. Even if she sensed him approaching, though, she wouldn't be able to run off. She had to train. He was going to take a page out of Naruto's book. Instead of thinking it over, he was going to act on pure instinct. He paused at the tree line when he spotted Naruto. Or more, multiple Narutos. There were 5 groups of 2, and all of them wore the same outfit as they stood in the clearing, making raisin guns. It was one thing to see Naruto in nothing but a towel, but to see her in an orange sports bra and pants was something else. The number of Narutos wasn't helping. Pulling himself together, he cupped his hands around his mouth. Naruto, get over here! All the blondes stopped what they were doing and looked over. Instantly the 10 turned into one Naruto, who hesitated before walking closer. Shikamaru wasn't even sure if Naruto had meant to dispel the clones. He did notice that Captain Yamato dropped his arm with a relieved sigh and started gulping water. Naruto started walking towards Shikamaru slowly, her eyes downcast. Shikamaru made sure to use his anger to make his focus stay on the blonde's face. When she had stopped in front of him, he expelled air through his nose like a bull. Why have you been avoiding us? Shikamaru snapped, deciding to be blunt. When Naruto failed to speak, he went on. You give us all a heart attack and just leave, without talking to any of us. Then you send a clone to see Sora off so you can dispel it when I spotted you. What the hell were you thinking? I'm sorry, Naruto muttered so low that Shikamaru nearly missed it. You should be. We were worried. He sighed in frustration, looking around the clearing. Kakashi-sensei and Captain Yamato were watching them closely, though they were trying to hide it. I didn't want to see the look. Sakura hasn't realized it that whenever I am training or fighting, it slips onto her face, just for a minute. Naruto's voice shook, and her throat caught. She's disgusted by what's inside me. I couldn't stand the thought of them, you looking at me that way. I don't want to see how much I repulse you. Because you hold the nine tails? When Naruto mournfully nodded, Shikamaru scoffed. I've known for years. Naruto's head snapped up with surprise, allowing Shikamaru to see the tears that were pooling in her eyes, making their crystal blue color brighter. You have? Since when? Since the day I became a Chunin. And I'll tell you the same thing I told you before the final Chunin exam, you're not a monster. Since you've been a Chunin, but that was before. Naruto touched her lips, looking at the ground. That's right. I've known since before I kissed you. Finding out didn't change anything. I never saw you any different for it. You aren't the Ninetales, Naruto. Anyone who can't see that isn't worth your time. I don't know anyone who would have the strength to fight the Ninetales for control like you do. He is terrifying in his strength. You're incredible, and you need to stop avoiding us so that we can remind you of that fact. Naruto looked up again, this time tears running down her face. Unlike last time, however, there was a wet smile on her face. She threw her arms around Shikamaru, burying her face in his shoulder. Thank you? Swallowing thickly, Shikamaru hugged her back just as tightly, trying to ignore the way her breasts pressed into his chest. Naruto, can I ask you a question? He asked softly after the blonde stopped crying. Why aren't you wearing a shirt? Naruto's laugh was muffled by Shikamaru's vest. He noticed the two Jonins looking at them with half amusement and half intrigue. Hate sleeping in a sweaty shirt. And your chest binds? Can't sleep in them either, too hard to breathe. So I'm just wearing a bra and transform when I sense Sakura. She still doesn't know. Sai does. He didn't bother to let her go, savoring the feel of Naruto in his arms for as long as she would allow. He saw me at the hot springs that Captain Yamato took us to. I knew if I went to the women's section Sakura would think I was tricking her and hit me. Her arms slid off of Shikamaru's shoulders, resting on his arms instead, and she lifted her head. The smile she gave him pulled the breath from his body. She better just kiss him already, Kakashi-sensei's mutter to Captain Yamato rang through the clearing. Shikamaru blushed as Naruto rolled her eyes towards her two teachers who started whistling and looking anywhere but at them. Well, I know who I'll be testing my technique on when I get it. Kakashi-sensei pales as Naruto and Shikamaru chuckled. Naruto gave Shikamaru another smile before leaning forward, kissing his cheek. When she pulled back, she stepped out of his arms. I should get back to training. Nope. Shikamaru shook his head. You're going to put on a shirt and come with me. You need to talk to your friends. You dropped a ton of information on them and walked away. You know you should talk to them. When Naruto looked frightened, he took her hand. I'll be there with you. Trust me. With a sigh, she ran back to her two teachers, grabbing her shirt and telling them what she was doing. They both seemed to approve. Captain Yamato even stumbled to a bedroll, telling her to take her time. Kakashi-sensei just chuckled at him. Throwing her shirt over her head and doing a quick transformation so that she looked flat-chested, Naruto walked over to Shikamaru, looking reluctant. It will be fine, the dark-haired boy said, taking her hand. He was able to convince Naruto into sensing where everyone was. They found Team 8 first. The three were walking down the street from their training grounds. They stopped when they spotted Naruto awkwardly standing meters in front of them, her hand holding Shikamaru's tightly. The blonde flinched deeply when Hinata ran at her, only to look surprised that the other girl had gathered her up in her arms. Are you okay, Naruto? Hinata asked, holding Naruto at arm's length. You've healed properly, right? Please don't push yourself. I won't. Naruto shot Shikamaru a confused look. Naruto, good to see you on your feet again, Shino commented, Akamaru barking what the genius could only assume was agreement. What the hell is wrong with you? Kiba roared, getting into Naruto's face the moment Hinata let her go. The blonde's hold on Shikamaru's hand tightened. You had us worried sick about you and you just go back to training without even talking to us? I thought you would hate me, Naruto whispered, sounding meeker than Shikamaru thought possible. Why would we hate you? Choji's voice made Naruto jump towards Shikamaru, putting her back to him. She obviously hadn't sensed Ino and Choji walking up behind her. Shikamaru ran his hands down Naruto's arms, taking hold of both her hands as he stood with his chest against her back. He couldn't help but feel joy over the fact that she trusted him enough to put her back to him when she was scared. She reminded him of a skittish kitten. For the Ninetales. So? Ino frowned. Why would we hate you for that? You didn't ask for the Ninetales to be put in you and you've protected us from it since the day you were born. Shikamaru couldn't help but smile at his teammates over Naruto's shoulder. He could feel the tension leaving Naruto as her friends smiled at her. So are you going to stop being afraid and come have lunch with us? My treat, Shikamaru asked in her ear, feeling her body shake for a moment. I suppose food would be good, Naruto whispered, turning her head just slightly to look at him. Choji cleared his throat, looking pointedly at Shikamaru as he tried to steer Ino in the direction of Ichiraku Ramen. Teammates were already following, back to discussing their training. Shikamaru wasn't sure why Choji shot him the look that he did, but he did notice how Ino kept staring at them over her shoulder, looking shocked. Slowly letting go of Naruto's hands, Shikamaru frowned at Ino, walking beside Naruto. Lunch felt better than their usual group hangouts. Knowing Naruto's secret appeared to make them closer. Shikamaru couldn't help but notice how Hinata was able to open up to Naruto more. Since finding out the blonde only liked males, she had been able to talk to her more, but it was obvious she admired and idolized Naruto to the point that she sometimes found herself mute. Now she appeared to be able to move past that and Naruto, and she were close. When they had finished lunch, Shikamaru put money down to pay for him and Naruto, before putting his hand on her shoulder. Come on, I should get you back to Kakashi-sensei and Captain Yamato. You still have to get the jutsu before you can use it on Kakashi-sensei. He smiled down at her, ignoring the way Ino was staring at him. Naruto laughed as she stood. Once they were out of the main part of the village, and instead in a more secluded area, Shikamaru took Naruto's hand again. He wasn't sure how she would take him doing so if people were around to see. She had allowed him earlier, but he was certain it was because she needed it. He was happy to see that she didn't pull away from him this time, and instead walked a little closer to him. Thank you? For what? For showing me that I can trust them. Naruto smiled at him. Are you going to tell them you're a girl now? Nah. Her reply made him chuckle. Kiba has a big mouth, and Ino will try and make me act like a girly girl. I don't try to act like a boy, this is just who I am. She paused. Is that something that would bother you, I mean? I've thought you were a girl since before we were friends, Shikamaru reminded her. Your behavior has never bothered me, so why would it now? Naruto had a soft smile on her face as she nudged him with her shoulder. Good to know. You're my closest friend, you know that? I thought Sasuke was. Shikamaru didn't mean for bitterness to leak into his voice, but he had always been jealous at how close Sasuke was to Naruto, especially when he hadn't earned it. He's like a brother. We can understand each other cause we're. Naruto searched for the words, lost at times. Both of us are struggling to reach a level we thought impossible, but have to make it realistic. For Sasuke it's defeating his brother, for me it's becoming Hokage. But you understand me whilst showing me everything I could have. You have had a loyal best friend since you were little, Choji. You've been approachable without being center of attention. Everything about you encourages people to respect you, and you have the best family. By the end, Naruto's face wore a large smile. I want that, and the more I get to know you, the more I think it might be possible. You like my family? I love your family. Your mom was afraid for your safety at first, but once she realized I would never hurt you, I could see she's a good mom, and a great cook. Your dad is one of the nicest guys I know, and incredibly smart. I can see why you're such a great guy, with those two as parents. That's why you're the one I'm closest to. The one you're closest to, not just your closest friend. He couldn't help the grin that appeared on his face. Naruto rolled her eyes. Fine, I admit that I'm closest to you, even over Irika-sensei and Pervy Sage. Happy now? Ecstatic. Naruto laughed, shaking her head at him. Shikamaru couldn't help but smile in reply. He loved the way she saw him. It was better than he saw himself, and if she wanted loyal friends, respect, and family, he would help her get all those things. She already had the first, the second she was earning quickly from everyone in the village, and the last, well, he could only help with that if he could work out why he couldn't confess to her. She also needed to return his feelings. You know, since I'm the closest person to you, if you ever feel the need to confess anything, spill your heart out, any of those things, you can always come to me. Actually, you should come to me exclusively. He tried to sound offhand, but he was fairly certain he failed. A girl has to have some secrets. Naruto bumped him with her hip, grinning. What a drag, he thought with a mental sigh. Chapter 33, One Last Lesson. Okay, I admit that I've been stalling on writing this chapter. You'll see why when you read this. Asuma's POV. He looked at his watch before picking up his step. He had spent longer with Kurenai than he had meant to, and now had to hope Shikamaru would be ready without warning. He couldn't leave the village without saying goodbye to Kurenai and their baby, since he knew missions were becoming more and more deadly. They had to meet Izumo and Kotetsu, but Asuma wanted to find Shikamaru first, and give him time to prepare for the mission if need be. Looking around, he spotted Ino and Choji. Not the student he was hoping for, but hopefully they would be able to lead him to the one he wanted. Walking up to them, he realized that they were in some type of a playful argument. Come on, you must know what's going on. Tell me, Ino demanded with a big grin. I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, please. It's obvious. Ino scoffed, rolling her eyes. When she spotted her teacher, her eyes lit up. You must know. Am I right? About what? Asuma asked, frowning at the blonde. About Shikamaru and Naruto. Are they finally dating? Asuma yelped, miffed that Shikamaru hadn't said anything. He watched as Ino's jaw dropped, and she looked gleeful whilst Choji groaned. Asuma-sensei. Choji dropped his head before grabbing Ino's shoulders, stopping her from jumping with excitement. They aren't dating, and Ino, you better keep this to yourself. But they do like each other? The blonde giggled, her face covered with a wide smile. I don't know how Naruto feels, Choji admitted, though signs seemed to point towards him liking Shikamaru. And Shikamaru? Ino prodded, pouting when Choji didn't answer. Come on, I'm your teammate and the only one who doesn't know. Choji sighed, folding to Ino's guilt. Fine. Shikamaru is in love with him. What? Yelped Ino and Asuma, hushing their voices when people looked at them. Are you sure? Asuma asked as Ino breathed her own question. Seriously, love? Yeah. A drunk Shikamaru confirmed it. He can be chatty. Which is bad when he disappears on me and I find out he was with Naruto. Ino's eyes widened. When you say with Naruto, do you mean with Naruto? What? No. He went and talked to him and crashed on his couch. Which isn't good, cause who knows what he said. And that's all the dirt you are getting off me about them. So there is more dirt? Asuma asked, wondering what he had missed. I'm not telling you. Choji clamped a hand over Ino's mouth, stopping her whining. What can we do for you, Asuma-sensei? I'm looking for Shikamaru. We have a mission to go on. Do you know where he is? He watched Ino point down the street, her mouth still covered. He left only a couple of minutes ago. He's walking Naruto back to his training grounds. Asuma nodded, saying goodbye before rushing off. It was lucky that he had walked with Captain Yamato to the training grounds a few days before, discussing their favorite topic of their two teammates. Captain Yamato had enjoyed telling him how Sai had started to question Naruto about his relationship with Shikamaru. Apparently the blonde had blushed red before changing the topic in a not-so-subtle manner. He found Izumo and Kotetsu along the way. Apparently they had been looking for him and Shikamaru. Together they headed towards Naruto's training ground. They didn't even reach the trees separating the training area from the rest of the village when they found Shikamaru, paused in the path, speaking with Naruto. Maybe it's 'cause I'm so inept at the Rasengan compared to others that can do it, but I can't seem to get this stupid technique. Kakashi-sensei says I can do it when no one else can because I have more chakra than the fourth, but that guy was a genius. Maybe you should try to complete it. I could give you my chakra. Naruto sighed, rubbing his forehead. Shikamaru rolled his eyes, his hands in his pockets. You need to stop doubting yourself. You aren't inept with the Rasengan. I have to use 2 hands, cut in Naruto. Yeah, and you can hold the Rasengan longer than anyone else and cause more damage with it. My father and his team fought beside the fourth, so my father knows what his Rasengan was like. Did you ever think that the reason you need 2 hands is because you have too much chakra to condense into a palm-sized ball? I can imagine it would be difficult to manipulate the Rasengan whilst trying to keep your chakra under control. Yeah. Naruto's shoulders slumped. You would think adding wind style would be easier given that the Rasengan is similar to wind in style. You're adding your element to it? Shikamaru yelped. That's impressive. Trying to. At the moment I'm thinking it's impossible. I swear it feels like I go cross-eyed every time I try. Are you thinking too hard? Shikamaru joked. Funny. Naruto gave him a mock glare. I meant metaphorically. You know what that means? Shikamaru dramatically gasped. I will punch you. Naruto shook his fist at the dark-haired boy, trying to look intimidating but looking amused. Asuma, trying not to laugh, chose to walk closer, letting the two know they are being observed by 3 ninjas. Oh hey, Asuma-sensei, Naruto yelled when he spotted the Jonin. Asuma smiled at the blonde before turning to his student. Sorry to pull you away, but we have a mission. You have to go get your stuff 'cause we have to leave in 20 minutes. I'm always packed and ready to go. Saves time. Shikamaru pulled a scroll from his back pocket. It was an enclosing scroll. The Jonin realized he should have guessed that his lazy student would have something prepared to save him effort. In his musing, he hadn't noticed that Izumo and Kotetsu were talking to Naruto about his training. When they noticed Asuma was paying attention again, they looked at him expectantly. Ready to go? Izumo asked. Asuma looked from Naruto to Shikamaru. There had been dread pooling in his stomach since he was handed his mission. Realizing that this mission could end badly for one of them, he forced a smile and turned to Shikamaru. Yeah. You ready, Shikamaru? The boy nodded, turning back to the blonde. See you? Good luck with your training. Before Naruto could reply, Asuma scoffed. Honestly, give a proper goodbye. Give Naruto a kiss. He pushed his student in the back, watching him stumble into the blonde as Izumo and Kotetsu chuckled. Naruto crashed to the ground, Shikamaru catching himself with his hands and knees either side of the blonde's body. Asuma-sensei, Shikamaru snapped, giving the man a sharp look. He rolled his eyes when he noticed how his teacher lifted his hands up in surrender, trying to look innocent. Shikamaru let himself fall gently to the side, maneuvering himself to stand up. When the 3 men had a clear view of Naruto, they gasped. At first Asuma thought he was seeing things, but after blinking his eyes in rapid succession and not seeing anything different besides some dots, he knew it wasn't a trick of the light. He looked at Izumo and Kotetsu, before looking at Shikamaru, expecting to see the same level of surprise as was mirrored on the 2 other men's faces. Instead, the genius was holding a hand out to the blonde. Naruto laid sprawled on the ground, pushed up on his elbows. Or should Asuma say her elbows, because for some reason her body had transformed into that of a female's. In her orange t-shirt and pants sitting on her hips, it was fairly obvious that her chest, waist, and hips were all features of the fairer gender. She took Shikamaru's hand, letting him pull her to her feet before she dusted off her pants. Really didn't want a bruise, but today, Asuma-sensei, Naruto laughed. When she noticed that the man was stuck in stunned silence, she looked confused before she looked down. Oh crap. This is what I get for training so much. A sex change? Yelped Izumo, his visible eye wide. He scanned Naruto's body again before seeming to realize what he was doing and looking away with a blush. No, my transformation jutsu breaks. Naruto rolled her eyes before shaking her head at an amused Shikamaru. So, you were born this way? Kotetsu asked, pointing at Naruto's body with a shaky finger. How did we not know this? Did you know this, Asuma? I'm going to go by his expression and say no, he didn't. Shikamaru looked far too smug seeing his sensei speechless. It's not common knowledge, assured Naruto. Basically just my teachers, my doctors, Grandma Tsunade, Sai, Sasuke, and Shikamaru, pretty sure that's everyone. Why does Shikamaru know? Asuma asked slowly, watching as Shikamaru blushed darkly. On second thought, I don't want to know. Just give her a kiss cause we have a mission to go on. I'm not kissing Naruto whilst you watch, you old pervert, snapped Shikamaru. What is it with senseis and being perverts? Mused the blonde. Wait, so you would kiss Naruto if we weren't here? Kotetsu asked, a large smile making the bandage over his nose crinkle. We're done here. Shikamaru glared, but its intensity was diminished by his deep blush. Stay safe, you guys, Naruto added with a wave, walking towards the tree line, her tan cheeks taking on a pink hue. Hopefully by the time you get back I'll have made some progress with this technique. Good luck, called Izumo, still appearing stunned and refusing to look at Naruto. A boy should not be that curvy. Naruto isn't a boy, reminded Shikamaru, stirring the dazed man towards the gates. But he was until you knocked him over. You broke Naruto, Izumo yelped, walking beside Kotetsu, though not appearing to notice that he was moving. You can't break Naruto. I didn't break Naruto, huffed the youngest member of the team. No, but you do want to do other things to Naruto. When Shikamaru looked furious at Kotetsu's words, the man laughed. I meant kissing. What were you thinking? Don't start that game with me. Shikamaru glared at the man before sighing and running his hand over his face. Don't tell people about Naruto, okay? You mean that you like him? Her? Izumo asked, still staring off into the distance. No. Yes. Look, I don't care about that, though I would prefer it if the whole village didn't find out before Naruto did. But about the whole, being female thing. Naruto doesn't want people to know yet, so can you let her tell them in her own time? She obviously trusts you guys or she would have lied about why she transformed. She trusts us? Shikamaru frowned at Kotetsu. Of course she does. You two have never mistreated her and Lady Tsunade trusts you too. It's not hard to tell who Naruto trusts at times. She likes to make it clear. It's good to know we've earned her trust as much as she's earned our respect. Izumo snapped out of his daze. Hey, when did we get to the gate? The three other men rolled their eyes at him as they signed out of the village. So. Shikamaru groaned, throwing an arm over his eyes and trying to fall asleep as fast as he could. No! He moaned. Two of you should be sleeping, and the last one should be shutting up and looking for enemies. But we have so many questions, whined Kotetsu, who was meant to be the one on guard. Asuma looked between Kotetsu and Izumo, trying not to laugh. It was obvious the two men would harass Shikamaru until they got the answers they wanted. Well, keep them to yourself. Shikamaru rolled onto his side, away from the men. Now, Shikamaru, it's only fair that we would have questions. We have found out a great deal about two ninjas today, and we want to explore those findings. I can hear your grin, muttered the young genius. With a loud sigh that morphed into a groan, he threw himself onto his back. Fine. Asked your questions? No promises I'll answer them though. How long have you known Naruto was a girl? Izumo fired the moment Shikamaru finished speaking. I've thought she was since we were 8. Just little things made me think she was. I had it confirmed a couple of months ago. So she's always been transformed around us? Kotetsu asked. No, she uses chest binds, but now when just wearing a t-shirt she transforms. In this case she wasn't wearing them at all. How long have you liked her? Izumo asked, grinning. I don't know. Is Naruto the one girl you've kissed? Asuma spoke up, grinning widely. Shikamaru glared at the man. Pass. So yes then. Asuma laughed at his student. He watched Shikamaru roll his eyes before covering his face with his arm again. When are you going to ask her out? Never, came the muffled reply. Why not? Izumo asked, moving closer as though afraid he would miss Shikamaru's response. I don't know. You're a genius. How can you not know why you're not going to ask out the girl you like? Kotetsu scratched his bandage. Love, Asuma corrected, watching Shikamaru bolt up into a seated position. What makes you think I love her? Drunk Shikamaru told Shoji. Asuma laughed as Shikamaru threw himself back onto his bedroll. That guy is an asshole. Choji? Drunk Shikamaru. Shikamaru ran a hand down his face. I'm still paying for what the guy did. Should I worry about what he did? Am I going to be a grand sensei? No, yelped the boy. Never mind. And to go back to the original question, which is much less mortifying than this one, I don't know why I can't ask Naruto out. Something is holding me back. Also, you lot are worse than Ino. Okay, why can't you ask out Naruto? Asuma asked, staring at his student. And I'm genuinely asking. Are you afraid of rejection? No. Shikamaru sighed. I don't really know what's stopping me. I've tried, but every time I go to something makes me mute. And it's not a fear of rejection. For some reason it feels like I'm afraid she'll accept my feelings. And that just sounds ridiculous, since I should want her to return them. But you didn't say return them, Asuma pointed out. You said accept them? Accepting sounds like she will tolerate you wanting her but not return the feelings. How do you feel at the idea of her returning your feelings? Like that's never going to happen, muttered the boy before he smiled. Though it would be good if it did. Asuma shot a look at Kotetsu and Izumo, seeing their confused expressions. They were in the dark about Shikamaru's issue as much as the boy himself was. It didn't take much for the Jonin to come up with some working theories. However, he was not going to voice any. He knew Shikamaru was much smarter than him, so if the genius hadn't worked out the cause, it was for a reason. We should rest. We have a mission to complete. Let's hope the Akatsuki aren't as bad as they sound. Kotetsu sighed, getting comfortable for his watch. The feeling of dread was growing stronger with each passing minute, sitting uncomfortably in his abdomen. His only hope was that the dread was not over the impending death of Shikamaru. He would never be able to live with himself if Shikamaru died on a mission he led, especially if the boy had not managed to confess to Naruto yet. He had money riding on it with Captain Yamato and Lady Tsunade. Captain Yamato had money riding on Naruto making the first official move, and Lady Tsunade believed that Shikamaru wasn't Naruto's type. Apparently she saw the blonde with someone like Kiba. He almost felt sorry for agreeing to take her money when she lost. Part of him wondered if she made the bet to tempt fate to prove her wrong. It was one of his first missions when he had learned the most vital lesson of being a ninja. He had hoped that he had taught his team that lesson early on, but now he realized it was something one had to learn the hard way. Shikamaru had worked harder than he had ever done before. His level of thought pattern was above anything Asuma could ever reach. Asuma would have died the moment Haiden had his blood if it wasn't for the genius. Unfortunately, that first lesson ranged true in Asuma's last moments. Sometimes it's just luck that wins the battle. He was proud to die in battle like his father, but was granted a luxury that his father was not given. He was able to die with his students watching over him. When his father had told him he had to teach the next generation of Ino Shikicho, he had been apprehensive. He had felt certain that he would fail them, and under his tutelage, they would never be able to surpass their fathers. Now, as he looked up at their tear-stained faces, he was certain that they would succeed. Not because of him. They were talented long before he met them. He had just been smart enough to point them in the right direction and let them go. He might not have the privilege of raising his unborn child, but he knew what it felt like to have fatherly pride. And he wasn't going to waste his opportunity by not saying a proper goodbye. It wasn't a surprise to him that Shikamaru was the first to accept that Asuma was going to die. He was always the more rational one. Ino, he took a wheezy breath, turning his eyes on the blonde. You're bossy, but you can also be a compassionate caregiver. Choji and Shikamaru, they're both so awkward and clumsy. Watch over them. Yes, sir, Ino cried. And make sure that you don't ever lose to Sakura, Asuma went on, knowing Ino needed a rival to keep her motivated. Not in ninjutsu, or in romance. After the girl agreed, Asuma turned his eyes onto Choji. Choji, you're a thoughtful, loyal friend, and a kind soul. In time you'll become a stronger shinobi than anyone else, so be more confident in yourself. As the boy wiped away his tears, Asuma remembers all his worries he had about Choji's health. And another thing, you might consider losing a few pounds. I don't know if it's possible, but I'll try too, promised Choji. Finally, he turned his eyes onto his last student. Whilst he never played favorites, he had become closest to Shikamaru over the years, and valued the boy's mind over anyone else's in the village. And finally, Shikamaru. With your razor-sharp intellect you have the instincts of a great shinobi. You are truly worthy of becoming Hokage, though you'll probably try avoiding it since you'd find the job such a drag. He knew Shikamaru would never take Naruto's dream away from her, but he did hope that no matter what happened between the two, he would help the girl when she became Hokage. He could see how much she had grown. The thought of the blonde made him think of something he needed to add, a hint to help the couple he had been eager to see become reality. Remember, sometimes you have to remind people that their happiness is more important to you than your own. You think too much at times. All those games of shogi, and not once could I beat you. Which reminds me, remember when we talked about the king? Now I'm going to tell you who the king is. Lean closer. He waited until Shikamaru's ear was next to his mouth before giving him the one hint that would tell Shikamaru the answer. The one secret he had wanted to say since he had found out the news. I need you to do me one last thing. I need you to look after Kurenai, and our baby. It will be the next generation of kings. Shikamaru sat back in shock. It was intriguing to watch the pieces fall into place for the genius, but Asuma found he couldn't chuckle. He was feeling cold, and he knew it had nothing to do with the storm rolling in. I'm counting on you, Shikamaru. His hand twitched. I know I said I quit, but I guess it doesn't matter anymore now. Could you get me one last cigarette? They're in my pouch. He watched the flame flicker as Shikamaru held it to the cigarette. I couldn't be prouder to train 3 fantastic ninjas. Ino, Sasuke was never good enough for you. Choji, with your personality, you'll easily get a sweet girl. Shikamaru, protecting Naruto is noble, but I think she returns your feelings, you just need to take the chance. The cold disappeared, warmth spreading through his body as the firelight flickered from his vision. At least he taught his students one last thing. Chapter 34 Safe. He didn't think it was possible for the body to feel so numb. That was the only response he had towards breaking Kurenai. He had to witness the kind, caring woman's heart shatter, and he was the one to cause it. He had hoped that being the one to tell her would soften the blow, but he realized too late that there was nothing to stop it. She fell to her knees crying, and Shikamaru crouched, putting a hand to her shoulder. White noise filled his ears, drowning out Kurenai's pain. When she picked herself up, saying she wanted to be alone, he didn't stop her. The funeral preparations wouldn't take long. Someone who was proficient with earth-type jutsus would be making the tombstone now, putting Asuma's name on the slab. Medical ninjas from the morgue would be preparing his sensei's body. Funerals in the leaf weren't a ceremony like in the sand. The body was buried and the tombstone in place before people arrived to say goodbye. Words are said about the deceased next to their burial place, and the one they loved the most was the first to put flowers down. Kurenai would be that person. Shikamaru couldn't help but wonder who would have been the one to put flowers on his grave if he had died instead of Asuma-sensei. It would probably have been his parents, since, although romantic love always came first in funeral rites, not many knew of his feeling for Naruto. He definitely wouldn't want her finding out through his death. Thinking of Naruto must have affected his directions, for he found himself outside her apartment, even though he knew she wasn't home. He turned to leave only to find the door opening and Naruto looking out. Hey, Shikamaru, did you want to come in? Naruto held the door open for him, allowing him to spy a distraught Konohamaru sitting on the couch. She walked out into the hallway, closing her door softly. She moved towards Shikamaru, taking his hands. Are you alright? He frowned, taking in Naruto's pity-filled eyes. A lump formed in his throat, creating uncomfortable pressure. I'm fine. Why wouldn't I be? Because of Asuma-sensei. Naruto flinched at the glare he sent her. I know he's dead, Shikamaru hissed. I was there. I fought the Akatsuki. I know how pathetically weak compared to them we are. I know what will happen when they come for you. You will die, just like Asuma-sensei, and I won't be able to stop it. The fight against the Akatsuki isn't one we are going to win. We will, Shikamaru, Naruto whispered, hesitating between walking closer and further away. Sometimes it's just bad luck. Asuma-sensei didn't die because of bad luck. Shikamaru roared, noticing Naruto visibly wincing and moving a step away. I'm sorry. Just come inside. Konohamaru is in there and I can look after you both. I just want to make sure you're okay. Naruto held out her hand to him. He shot a look at the closed door. The thought of being in a room with someone as heartbroken as himself propelled him in the other direction. No, thank you. I'm going to go. He hurried down the corridor before Naruto could stop him. He couldn't stay still, and yet walking around pointlessly caused the hollow ACH inside of him grow. He didn't want to be around those who appeared unaffected by Asuma-sensei's death, but being around those who were in as much pain as him was unbearable. When he left for the funeral the next day, he arrived at the graveyard early only to find that his feet wouldn't stop. He walked past the collection of tombstones, not even looking to find Asuma-sensei's. He continued until he found a sloping roof to lie on, pulling out Asuma-sensei's lighter that he still had, and flicked it to life before snapping the lid closed, repeating the motion as he watched the kids run around the street below. They were the current kings, the most important piece on the board, and he would make sure to protect them. He refused to lose this game, even though he couldn't find the motivation to do anything. When he finally wandered home, he sat on his pouch, staring at the sky. He didn't move, not when it started to become cold, not when his mother told him dinner was ready, and not when his mind started to become sluggish from lack of sleep. It wasn't until his father requested that Shikamaru spend time with him did he move. They played shogi in the spare room, not speaking as they moved piece after piece. His father commented on his lack of focus to the game, realizing he wasn't trying. The Akatsuki, they are strong, Shikaka started, clearly trying to coax words out of his son. Aren't they? Yeah. So, what's your plan? He received no answer. Shikamaru didn't have an answer. If someone like Asuma couldn't handle them, what shot do you think you'd have? Sarutobi was a hell of a guy. I know. Not so hot at shogi though. That actually pulled a mild chuckle out of Shikamaru. It didn't hurt as much as he was expecting to talk about Asuma-sensei. You know what you're doing? Shikaka asked, making Shikamaru wonder if he meant with the game, or not. Look, you play your way and I'll play my W. No, son, cut in Shikaka. I'm not talking about shogi. Shikamaru glared at his father, who met his gaze evenly. Well, you wouldn't do anything stupid, I suppose. He fell silent for a moment. I'm lucky in that respect. Who wants to go to his own son's funeral? You've done well for yourself. I'm very proud to be your father. Shikamaru groaned, dropping his head to his knee. He wasn't in the mood for a lecture. You're as sharp as they come, his father continued, with great talent. Someone the Leaf can depend on in the future. But now Asuma is dead. The anger boiling inside him spewed over at those words, and he slapped the shogi board and table to the side. The force caused a gust of wind that took out the candle's flame, plunging them into darkness. He glared at his father, gripping his knees tightly. Just what are you getting at here? Shikamaru snapped. Only the truth. Shikaka remained calm, even after his son's outburst. Shikamaru rose to his feet, his hands balled tightly into fists. Will you shut your mouth? All this talking is making me sick. Say what you want, I'm still nothing but a useless coward. You're wrong. Shikaka shook his head. What do you want from me? He watched as his father slowly rose to his feet. He wanted his father to be as angry at him as he was himself. He wanted his father to show some type of emotion. He wanted his father to hate him, not praise him. Shikaka met his angry stare with calm compassion. Let it out, boy. That shocked Shikamaru. All of the anger, the sadness, and the fear, everything that's brewing inside of you, you've got to let it go. He tried to stay angry, but he could feel a pressure in his chest, throat, and eyes building. It all starts from there, son. Shikaku walked out, something Shikamaru was thankful for. He paused at the door, not looking at his son. Naruto worries about you. When you are ready, you should talk to him. As the door closed, he lost his battle against his tears, wailing loudly. He kicked the pillows and screamed until it felt as though everything he had been holding inside left him. Lying on the ground, he stared blankly up at the ceiling. Hearing a noise, he turned his head, spotting the king tile from the shogi set. He would be no use to the king in the state he was in. As he sorted through the shogi pieces, he thought about the 2 Akatsuki members he had fought. Determination fills him as he righted the shogi board. He thought about their fighting techniques and what they said to each other, trying to tease out hints from the words. He planned strategies for fighting the 2. He worked out he would be able to manage Haiden himself once he separated him from his partner, but it was that other, mostly unknown entity that was the issue. He would be left to Ino and Choji. Shikamaru wished he could have an adept fighter who was versatile, with enough chakra and experience to hold their own in a lengthened fight, but their mission would have to be done in secret. 24. That was how many strategies he went through before he found one he believed would work. It would be close, but he believed they could do it, especially if he could get a major ace in the hole to appear. Illogical behavior can often be the best. With new resolution, he cleaned the room and went in search for more information. As much as he wished he could be certain Naruto could somehow help him, even without being on the battlefield, he was going to have to convince both her and himself that this wasn't a suicide mission. He had planned to visit the library before seeing Naruto, but he had barely left the Nara estate before the blonde appeared in front of him. There were bags under her eyes, which wasn't surprising since it was before dawn, but she would have had to stay up waiting to meet him so quickly. She wasn't wearing chest binds and hadn't bothered to transform herself into a boy. The short pants were back, and she wore an orange shirt that cut into a V, highlighting her shape. Her appearance was not conducive to thinking straight. "Naruto, what are you wearing?" he yelped. "Konohamaru is sleeping at my place and had no other clothing besides the funeral clothing. I lent him my last clean set of boys' clothing. Can't believe the kid is the same size as me." Naruto scratched her head before slowly walking closer. "Shikamaru, I just wanted you to know I'm here if you need anything." "Naruto, I appreciate it, but I don't need to cry, and I don't need a hug at the moment." "I know," Naruto replied calmly, walking closer. "I didn't mean I was here as a shoulder to cry on. If you wanted that, I would be. When you want a hug, you've got it. But I'm here because if you need to yell at someone, yell at me. The Akatsuki are a threat to the village because of me, so take it out on me. If you want to hit me, go ahead, I can take it. I promise to not hit back." Shikamaru stared at the blonde hard before stalking forward. Naruto closed her eyes, taking a deep breath to prepare herself. She was obviously not expecting Shikamaru to grab either side of her face and slam his lips against hers. After getting over her shock, she returned the kiss, even though Shikamaru was certain he was bruising her lips. When he finally pulled away from her, he put his forehead against hers, breathing deeply through his nose. "Naruto, never, and I mean never, offer for anyone to hit you. Do you hear me?" His gaze bored into hers. "I would never hit you, and you shouldn't let people hit you for any reason. None of this is your fault. The only one I want to hurt is Haiden. Then I'll help you with that. I will have my technique finished by the time you need me. If you need it finished in 5 minutes, I'll have it done. Just tell me what you want," Naruto rambled as the boy dropped his hands from her face. "If you want Temari here, I'll contact Gaara. He owes me a favor. I need your help, I do. I just don't know how. I can't put you in danger, though. I can't lose you too. And I don't see how Temari would help, even though she is a powerful ninja. But at the moment, the only thing I need from you is a smile. Show me your smile so I have something positive to focus on while I plan how to take out 2 Akatsuki members before they can take you away from me." When Naruto gave him the smile he requested, he stared at her, burning it into his mind. Once he knew he could summon the image in command, he closed his eyes. Now please go back to training and looking after Konohamaru so your smile is the last thing of yours I see before I start my plans." He could still feel Naruto's body heat and wondered why she hadn't left. Before he could ask why, he felt something on his lips. It was a much softer kiss than the one he had given Naruto. His hands blindly found her waist as one of hers went to the back of his neck. Although he didn't remember the drunk kiss, he had no doubt this was the most tender kiss they had ever shared. There was more hesitation in it, and he realized this was the first kiss Naruto had given him. He wrapped his arms around her, pulling her closer. She was warm and alive, something that he could still protect. He had let Asuma-sensei down, but he would not do so with Naruto. And in the meantime he was going to enjoy having her in his arms. He was going to take the opportunity to pretend, even for a moment, that they were more than they were, pretend he didn't have something blocking him. Naruto was the first to pull away, her hands on his shoulders. He rested his forehead against hers again, eyes still closed. He tried to get his mouth to form the words he wanted to say. To tell Naruto, but still he couldn't do it. Instead he found himself speaking something else, something he didn't plan. "Naruto, you need to learn to put yourself first. You're important to a lot of people, and none of us want to see you hurt because you think others should always come before you." The blonde didn't speak for a moment, instead playing with the neckline of his shirt. "I should go finish my training. Konohamaru will be there already. He wants to watch, and I think he just doesn't want to be alone." "Before you go," Shikamaru spoke up, opening his eyes. It only just occurred to him to ask the one person who saw the village for what it was the question that plagued him for so long until the day before. "Naruto, if the village, or even the world, was a shogi board, who do you think the king would be?" The words slipped past his mouth casually, hiding the weight of Naruto's answer. "Easy. The king is the one that holds our heart, our souls, and our minds. They are the one we will rush to protect." When Shikamaru raised an eyebrow, she smiled sadly. "I learnt long ago that the children are the kings. We are the shields for the next generation. When we fall, they grow to fill the spaces. That's why I have tried to teach Konohamaru, Udan, and Miyogi. If they learn even one thing from me that will help them survive and protect the king, then I can die feeling like I accomplished something." He was almost afraid to ask, but his mind wouldn't let him drop it. "How did you learn that the next generation were the kings?" "I saw it every time a parent called me dangerous, every time their eyes were filled with fear when I was near their child, but anger and hate when I was near the parents themselves." A tear rolled down Naruto's cheek. "I even learned it when your dad saved me when I was little. He kept yelling, 'He's just a child,' and I knew my age meant something important to him. It held more weight than even the beast inside me did to him." She paused, frowning. "I thought you wanted the last thing you saw of me before you started planning the Akatsuki's doom was my smile. You opened your eyes. I decided you walking away in those pants would be better." He smirked at her blush. "You are such a pervert." "I am not." "Satin underwear." Naruto grinned. "I'm just going to crawl into a hole, excuse me." He turned to walk away, only for Naruto to grab his arm with a laugh. She kissed his cheek, smiling widely. "There's that smile I wanted." He closed his eyes. "I'll come find you when I'm done." He heard her run off before opening his eyes, filled with determination. When he finally pulled himself out of research and sorted out his team, he had expected reluctance, or that he would have to convince them. Instead, it appeared that they had both been waiting for him to come to them, were awaiting orders off him as though he was their leader. Neither of them argued with the parts they were to play and assured him that they would work hard. They were going to leave just before first light, during the small gap in guard duty. When they returned, he would have to bring it up with Lady Tsunade, but that would have to wait. He had hoped to see Naruto again, to ensure that she would be able to help him, but he found he had to simply trust her blindly. When Lady Tsunade appeared in time to stop him, he had a hollow feeling that this was Naruto's doing. He didn't think she would rat them out. However, when Kakashi-sensei made his presence known, Shikamaru nearly laughed. Of course she would send him the exact fighter he needed. One that was an adept fighter, versatile, with enough chakra and experience to handle a prolonged fight. He wanted to be sure, and he wanted to find out if the blonde had any other plans in that brilliantly underrated brain of hers. As Choji and Ino cheered at being given permission from Lady Tsunade to go on the mission, Shikamaru turned to the white-haired ninja. But Kakashi-sensei, what about Naruto? Kakashi-sensei smiled behind his mask, pulling a heavily bandaged arm out of his pocket as answer. Shikamaru had to fight a laugh. She was a woman of her word and had clearly used her new jutsu on her perverted sensei first. Your arm, Ino gasped. Oh, it's nothing. He doesn't need me at the moment. Plus, he's got another squad leader with him now, so. He did give a chuckle at that. Man, that guy. He doubted his teammates realized what Kakashi-sensei was getting at. They had a few hours head start, in which time Naruto would be restoring her chakra and perfecting the jutsu as much as she could before she charged into battle, with or without permission from the Hokage. The Akatsuki were going to get a first-hand message why they should leave the Nine-Tails alone, and the village guards. Shikamaru would make sure that the two Akatsuki were not going to leave the battlefield. They would learn the hard way that they couldn't kill a member of the Leaf, and they certainly couldn't have their favorite Jinchuriki. He walked out of the Nara forest, focusing on putting one foot in front of the other. Briefyu walked beside him, nudging him upright when he stumbled. His body felt like lead, his head pounded from lack of sleep, his nostrils were burnt from the smell of Haiden's smoking flesh, but he felt relief. He would not have to sit Asuma-sensei's child down one day and explain how he had failed the man. He would be able to teach that child, guard them, without every action being tainted by guilt. The light stung without the tree's leaves blocking it. Blinking, he was not surprised to see Naruto meters ahead of him, running closer. She stopped a short distance away, eyeing Briefyu with appreciation. You did it? The blonde asked, giving the male a tentative smile. Yeah, Shikamaru whispered, not even sure if she could hear him. Naruto. The blonde smiled and held open her arms. Instantly the young Nara fell into the waiting embrace, choking out a sob into Naruto's neck. He leaned so heavily into Naruto that the shorter ninja stumbled and fell to her knees, the Nara following to the ground. The blonde rubbed Shikamaru's back, muttering into his ears soft words of comfort. With a sniffle, Shikamaru unburied his head from Naruto's shoulder, his face pale and drenched in tears. He grasped Naruto's face, looking desperately into the blonde's eyes. Naruto, Shikamaru's voice shook as he spoke with urgency. Promise me that you will be careful. Promise me that you wouldn't let the Akatsuki get you. I can't lose you, especially not over the Nine-Tails inside you. I know you've gotten strong and you're incredibly brave. It wouldn't surprise me if you were Jonin level. But, please promise me. Please. Promise you'll be safe and stay with me. With a gentle smile, Naruto reached up and wiped a tear from Shikamaru's cheek. I have Kakashi-sensei, Iruka-sensei, Captain Yamato, Pervisage, Granny Tsunade, Sakura, and even Sai backing me up. And I have you. Naruto's face turned strained, her eyes misting over. And you're wrong. I'm not strong or brave. I'm a coward. And I'm scared. I'm always afraid of what people think, of what they might do, not just to me but to the people I care about. And mostly I'm afraid of waking up back at the academy, back before you started talking to me and gave me friends. I need my friends to make me strong. And I need you to make me safe. Shikamaru's deep breath was audible through the field. Every good ninja knew that safety wasn't something that came easy. To find someone who made you feel at peace was rare. It took trust and respect on multiple levels for a ninja to feel that way around someone. The black-haired boy moved forward, dropping his forehead against Naruto's, his small, genuine smile turning into a slight grimace. Did my forehead protector hurt? Naruto chuckled. Yeah. Well, maybe if you wore yours on your damn forehead then that wouldn't happen, Naruto half-heartedly scolded, sounding amused. Troublesome. Shikamaru's forehead slipped off of Naruto's. He kissed the girl's cheek before burying his face in Naruto's neck again, his arms wrapping around the blonde's shoulders. Naruto held onto Shikamaru just as tightly, her arms around his waist. Briefyu walked up to the pair. The large animal touched its nose to Naruto's head before dropping down next to the two to guard them. See, even Briefyu is here for you, Naruto remarked, rubbing the boy's back. Shikamaru chuckled before pulling away from Naruto. I'm guessing you dealt with your target. Yeah. My new jutsu is kind of a 1 in 2 chance jutsu, but I got him. And Captain Yamato and I found we can combine my Rasengan with his water style, which is cool. Choji doesn't like my new jutsu's name either. Naruto started leading Shikamaru back to the group, holding his hand comfortably. What is it? Raisin Shuriken. He says since I don't throw it then I shouldn't call it that, but I can feel that I should be able to throw it. I guess I just need more practice, or more chakra. Naruto sighed. If you don't have enough chakra then it can't be done. Shikamaru pulled Naruto closer to him, letting her warmth give him the energy he would need to get home. When they met up with the rest of the team he could tell Choji and Ino were in higher spirits than before. Neither of them commented about Naruto and Shikamaru holding hands, though the genius knew Choji was already aware of his feelings for the blonde. He had drunk Shikamaru to thank for that. Kakashi-sensei and Captain Yamato were also obviously aware based on commented they had said after the Nine-Tails incident. If Ino wasn't aware already then he figured it wouldn't hurt for her to find out on her own. With her pushy personality she might get him to confess. They stumbled into the village, not able to take the shortcut through the Nara forest because it would be too dangerous, and up to Lady Tsunade's office, giving her a report of the mission. Captain Yamato assured her that they had gathered Kakuzu's body for autopsy. When they were finally allowed to leave, Shikamaru groaned. Why does my estate have to be so far from the Hokage Tower? He complained to Naruto. He knew he was trying to coax an answer from Naruto, but didn't want to admit it. Kakashi-sensei and Captain Yamato were walking ahead. Ino had stayed behind to help Lady Tsunade with the preparations for Kakuzu's autopsy, and Choji had gone in search of food. Shikamaru had been the only one of the 3 chunins to stay awake for 2 nights straight. Looking at the blonde he could tell Naruto hadn't been getting sleep lately either. Konohamaru is sleeping on my couch, but you're welcome to stay at mine. Where would I sleep? Shikamaru asked even though he had gotten the invitation he had wanted. In my bed. It's not the first time. When Kakashi-sensei turned around sharply, looking as though he had just heard the latest book in his perverted book series had been released, Naruto scoffed. When he was sick, you old pervert. Keep walking or I'll use my jutsu on you again. The threat made both team leaders hurry to leave their presence. I'm going to have to remember that threat, Naruto chuckled. Where would you sleep? Shikamaru asked slowly. Are you honestly so immature you can't sleep in a bed with a girl? Or is it your perverted personality coming through? Funny. If you don't want to, I can get out my bedroll I use for missions. Shikamaru gave her a small smile. No, I'm fine with sharing a bed. Truthfully, I can't sleep lately. Having you beside me will help. They snuck into her apartment, not wanting to wake the young genin snoring on the couch. It wasn't until Naruto closed her bedroom door that they spoke again. I told him what we were doing today. I hope you don't mind, but it calmed him. Naruto threw a pair of her male boxer shorts at him. Either turn around or go to the bathroom. I want to change out of their sweaty cloths. Swallowing thickly, he turned his back on the girl. You better not look either. You're the pervert here. He heard her laugh before he heard the rustle of clothing. He blocked out his thoughts by focusing on changing his own clothing. Done, he informed when he was finished changing. Me too. He turned to see Naruto climbing into bed wearing boxer shorts and a shirt. She sighed deeply as she lay down. I haven't slept in a bed for ages. I forgot how nice it was. He slid in between the sheets next to the blonde, feeling the coldness against his skin. Putting one arm around Naruto's waist, he pulled her closer. Thank you for helping me. And I'm sorry I yelled at you. It's fine. I forgive you. Naruto buried her face in Shikamaru's chest, falling to sleep quickly. Smiling down at her, he let himself drift off. I honestly don't deserve to have you care about me, but I hope that you do. He couldn't help but chuckle at the thought of how Asuma-sensei would react if he knew where Shikamaru was at that moment. The idea eased him into sleep, making him realize the ball of pain he had been carrying was gone. Chapter 35, Healing. What the hell is going on? Shikamaru groaned, trying to drown out the noise. It was made harder by the sharp poke he received to the shoulder. Bringing the arm up that wasn't wrapped around something warm, he shielded his eyes from the morning light. Squinting, he saw Konohamaru standing over him, glaring at him with a disapproving pout on his face. Seeing Shikamaru looking at him, he poked him hard in the chest. "Get the hell out of that bed. Now!" Naruto groaned, burying her face further into Shikamaru's chest, throwing a leg over his stomach. "Konohamaru, go away, we're trying to sleep." Naruto's words came out muffled against the Chunin's skin. With her so close to him, Shikamaru could easily see just how much darker her skin was compared to his. He found himself ignoring the young boy glaring at him and instead staring at the contrast. He enjoyed the look of her tan skin, reminding him of wet sand. She was so soft and warm though. There were freckles on her arm that she had draped over Shikamaru's bare chest. He would give up watching clouds if it meant he could instead watch her sun-kissed skin rest against his pale skin. Unfortunately, Konohamaru demanded attention. "You two can't be in bed together. Shikamaru, get your hands off my cyst." The brunette's words were cut off by Naruto throwing a spare pillow at his face. He looked baffled before Naruto lifted her head, opening her eyes. "Konohamaru, I love you, but if you don't let me sleep, I will hit you." The girl dropped her head back down onto Shikamaru's chest, moving her arm to block her face. "I know what you two want to get up to. I'm not leaving until he gets away from you," Konohamaru hissed, blushing darkly. "I want to sleep, nothing else," Naruto muttered. "Me too," agreed Shikamaru, dropping his arm and closing his eyes. "I don't believe you. You're welcome to sleep on the floor like a guard dog, but either way I'm getting a couple more hours sleep." "What time is it?" Naruto's breath tickled Shikamaru as she sighed. "It's nearly 5 in the morning." Konohamaru finally sighed. "If I hear any noise from in this room I will hurt you, Shikamaru." Shikamaru could feel the grin on Naruto's face against his chest. "Naruto, don't even think about it." "Think about what?" Konohamaru snapped. "She's thinking about making noises just to freak you out." Shikamaru shook his shoulder, shaking Naruto in the process. The blonde whined and rolled away from him. "Behave, you. I want more sleep too. You should sleep on the couch." He could feel Konohamaru glaring at him. "And where would you sleep, Konohamaru?" Shikamaru sighed, peeking one eye open. "I promise we will be good, like we already have been. Now can we please go back to sleep? We had a tiring mission." Konohamaru finally turned towards the door with a nod. He stopped at the door, looking over his shoulder. "The people who, to Uncle Asuma. They're dead." Naruto finished one off and I got the other. Shikamaru watched some of the tension leave the boy's shoulders before he walked out, leaving the bedroom door ajar. He smiled, rolling to face Naruto, putting his torso against Naruto's back. Wrapping his arms around her waist, he pulled her closer. "I'll have to remember that you have a protective little brother." Naruto laughed, relaxing into him. "Yep, and I've raised him to be tough too, so you should be worried. I'd be terrified if I couldn't promise that I'd never hurt you. Konohamaru has no reason to distrust me." Shikamaru buried his face in the back of Naruto's neck, breathing in her scent. When he woke up again, slowly this time, he still had his arm wrapped around Naruto's form, holding her close to him. He rubbed the tip of his nose against the back of the blonde's neck, enjoying the smooth skin. Tightening his arm around Naruto, he kissed her neck. Naruto shook in his arms as he kissed her again. "That tickles," Naruto muttered, rubbing her eyes before turning around, still in Shikamaru's hold. "How did you sleep?" "Better than I thought I would," Shikamaru sighed. "Thank you." "Anytime." Naruto yawned, rubbing her eyes again. "We should get up before Konohamaru comes barging in again." She sat up looking at Shikamaru expectantly. "I can't get out of bed until you move." With a dramatic groan he rolled out of bed, watching the blonde crawl out, cradling her right arm to her stomach. Before he could question her, Naruto walked over to her chest of drawers, pulling a drawer open with her left hand. "Here. I figured you'd want to change." She threw some clothing at him, which he caught easily. Holding it up, he couldn't help but frown. "Naruto, are these my dad's clothing?" Naruto rocked on her heels, looking at the ground. If you want, I can get you some of Irika-sensei's old clothing, or I have some shirts of Kakashi-sensei's. Shikamaru frowned at the blonde, a small smile on his face. Why are you collecting clothing off men? Naruto blushed, rolling her eyes. If you don't want the clothing. No, I appreciate it. I'm just wondering why. You can tell me. Shikamaru put the clothing on the messy bed before walking closer, putting a hand on Naruto's shoulder. When she flinched, he removed it. Sorry, I won't touch you. She shook her head. My shoulder and arm is a little sore, that's all. I have their clothing cause. Your dad gave me some of his when I was attached, and I think some of yours. I remember noticing that they were warmer and… Naruto blushed darker, looking away. What? He went to put his hands on her arms again before stopping, and instead placing them on her hips. Naruto, I'm not going to laugh or anything, I promise. Naruto huffed and rolled her eyes. I used to imagine it was what a hug felt like. So when your dad kept offering his old clothing, I kept taking them, and Irika-sensei's. Kakashi-sensei offers you his old shirts? Shikamaru asked, not being able to imagine it. He quirked an eyebrow at the embarrassed expression Naruto wore. I may have borrowed some of Kakashi-sensei's and Captain Yamato's shirts. Shikamaru couldn't help the laugh that slipped past his lips. You're a shirt thief. You said you wouldn't laugh. Naruto yelped. I'm not laughing at why you have the shirts. I'm laughing at the fact that you're a shirt thief. If mine goes missing, I know where to look. He laughed again when Naruto shoved him. Thanks for the clothing. Do you mind if I have a shower? Go ahead. Naruto got him a towel before dropping onto the lounge, right onto a sleeping Konohamaru's chest. What the hell, Naruto? Pay back for earlier, she laughed. Chuckling, Shikamaru closed the bathroom door. When he exited the bathroom, Naruto raced in, closing the door on Konohamaru. You better not take too long, the boy yelled. My bathroom, Naruto sung back. Konohamaru kicked the door before turning to Shikamaru, who was rubbing his head with the towel. Shikamaru, can I ask you about the Akatsuki? Sighing, he sat on the couch. What do you want to know? What are the chances of Naruto surviving? At the Chunins' frown, the boy gave a dry chuckle. I know what she holds. And I know the Akatsuki are targeting her kind. I overheard Uncle Asuma and Aunt Kurenai talking. Please tell me she's not going to die too. Shikamaru patted the seat next to him, waiting until the boy sat and took some calming breaths. Naruto is strong. We both know that, and she has the village beside her. None of us will let the Akatsuki take her away from us. You have my word that I will do everything I can to protect her. Konohamaru nodded slowly. Don't go dying either. You're important to Naruto, and to me. Good to know, kid. He ruffled Konohamaru's brown hair, making him sweat at his hand. I see Konohamaru doesn't want to kill you now. Both males jumped, looking over to see Naruto in girl's clothing again. This time she wore a white halter neck and, something Shikamaru never expected, an orange skirt. You can have the bathroom now. At her words, Konohamaru grabbed some clothing and ran into the bathroom, slamming the door. That kid has the smallest bladder in existence. When Naruto sat down next to Shikamaru, she looked at him for a moment before huffing. Stop looking at my legs, you pervert. I'm just surprised you're in a skirt, the boy retorted, crossing his arms. Yeah? Naruto nudged him with her elbow, only to yelp and cradle her arm. What's wrong? Nothing, my arm is just a little sore. Naruto put her hand on her injured arm, only to wince violently. It's more than a little sore. Shikamaru stood up. Come on, we're taking you to see a medic. Naruto rolled her eyes. I heal quickly. It hasn't healed overnight. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I didn't notice it was hurting with everything going on. I'll tell you what, if it hasn't healed in 2 hours, you can march me down to the hospital. Shikamaru eyed off the blonde before realizing this was one situation he couldn't maneuver out of. Naruto was stronger than him, stubborn, and short of causing her pain, there was no way Shikamaru could force her to go to the hospital. Fine, 2 hours, he sighed, noting the time. But you're not allowed to lie to me about whether it is still injured, at all, when the 2 hours are up. Fine. Naruto pouted before reaching out with her left hand, pushing a strand of hair out of Shikamaru's face. I like your hair down. Luckily for Shikamaru, Naruto dropped her hand, frowning as she looked at the front door. What's I doing here? She got up, walking to the door. When she opened it, Sai stood on the threshold, fist raised. The pale boy wasn't surprised to see Naruto in feminine clothing. Shikamaru was reminded sharply that Sai discovered Naruto's gender at the hot springs. Against his will, his fingers curled inwards until his nails cut into his palm. He walked up to stand beside Naruto, putting a hand on the middle of her back. Staring the Umbu member down, the genius noticed the shopping bags in his hand. Hey Sai, what's up? Naruto asked with a chipper smile. I heard from Ino that you had guests, and thought you might need provisions. I read that it was customary to offer your guests refreshments, but you haven't been home in a while. He handed Naruto the shopping bags, clearly waiting for confirmation on his information. Thanks, I didn't even think about that. Not a problem, Naruto. Have a good day. With a slight bow, Sai turned and walked off. Bye, Naruto called after him before closing the door. Okay, on to the next problem. I don't know how to cook. Don't look at me. Shikamaru snapped. I don't know how to cook either. I do. The two looked over at Konohamaru, who emerged from the bathroom with a cloud of steam. He took the bags from Naruto's good hand, looking through the items. Excellent. Naruto wrapped her good arm around Konohamaru's torso and lifted him onto her feet, before walking towards the kitchen, making Konohamaru walk too. You can cook for us. I didn't agree to that, yelped the brunette. Too bad, Shikamaru chimed in. We volunteered you. Thanks, Konohamaru sarcastically muttered before getting to work. Shikamaru helped where he could, but he made sure Naruto sat at the dining table and rested her arm. There were scratches on her arm, but otherwise it looked fine. No bruising or decolorization or swelling. Observing her arm out of the corner of his eye, Shikamaru couldn't help but wonder if the Nine Tails didn't heal the simple first. It was possible that Naruto's flesh rarely showed the damage within because the Nine Tails healed the flesh first, then the internal damage. The only time Shikamaru had seen her appearance marred with injury was when she had been close to death. He could assume in those cases healing the internal, life-threatening damage was more important. But why start with the flesh at all? Thinking it over, Shikamaru wondered if it wasn't a defense mechanism. The beast obviously needed Naruto to live, and therefore it wouldn't want Naruto to look weak in front of the enemy. Being black, blue, and bloody from a fight would show how badly hurt she was. But if Naruto was weakened enough, the Nine Tails would be able to break out. It made Shikamaru wonder if the Nine Tails wasn't at least a little protective, or fond of the blonde. She did have the ability to sway people's hearts. After the three had finished breakfast and Naruto had exhausted her questions about Konohamaru's training, Shikamaru noticed that the 2 hours were up. He had noticed that Naruto was still not using her right hand much and had had difficulty eating breakfast with her left. She had ended up stabbing her sausages with her chopstick. Alright, time to go to the hospital, Shikamaru demanded, rising to his feet. I can tell you're still injured. Naruto sighed. At least let me change into my chest binds and boy's clothing. Everyone was fine with the whole Nine Tails thing. Do you really think they are going to care about your gender? Shikamaru asked. I don't know. Part of me thinks they will be fine with it, but a bigger part of me is still scared they will think I'm tricking them or something and will hate me. I told you I'm a coward. Naruto looked away from the two boys. I'm just going to get dressed. For what it's worth, I'd protect you. Shikamaru only knew the blonde heard him by the way she paused in her steps for only a moment before retreating to her bedroom. You know, I'm starting to think Naruto could do worse. When Shikamaru frowned at Konohamaru, the boy shrugged. What? Naruto is a great ninja. Any guy would be lucky to have my big sister. But I suppose you'll do. Gee, thanks. Konohamaru laughed. Don't get me wrong, I respect you. I just didn't see how you and Naruto would work, but I'm starting to see that you two wouldn't be that bad a match. Let me know how she is, but I promise to meet Moegi and Udan. I'd cancel, but I know they're worried about me. It's alright. I'll let you know if it's anything bad. It's probably just a broken bone or something. Shikamaru walked the boy out before waiting for Naruto. When she did reappear looking like a boy, he smirked. You have trouble with the chest spines, didn't you? Yes, Naruto grounded out. I don't know what I'm going to do if they ask me to take off my jacket. Pray they don't notice, I guess. What's worse is that Sakura demands to heal me when she's there. She won't let anyone else near me because she's the medic for Team 7. How does she not know yet? Shikamaru asked, locking Naruto's door for her. People tend not to look past what they see as obvious. I look like a boy, everyone says I'm a boy, therefore I am a boy. Add in the fact that I've never corrected people and no one has a reason to question it, well, except for you. Naruto grinned. Or do you check the gender of all your friends? Only the ones that don't smell like the gender they appear to be. Seriously? That's what gave me away. My scent? Yeah. I've always wondered how Kiba hasn't noticed. Naruto shrugged. Hinata once commented that she was glad Kiba didn't judge people on their smell, or she would be self-conscious about sweating, so maybe that's it. Plus I avoid him when it's my time of the month, even though I always have the urge to hug cute things at that time, and Akamaru is adorable. Your time, OU. When Naruto frowned at the expression he waved his hands. No, I meant that he can smell it. That's gross, not the bleeding part, 'cause you know, that's natural. You're really uncomfortable right now, aren't you? Naruto laughed. Extremely. Naruto laughed again. It's fine, I understand that blood is gross, even if it's natural for women. Thank you? I've been yelled at for a similar conversation with Ino. It doesn't help that she gets angry during her time. Shikamaru sighed. Naruto just laughed, something that warmed him. He had noticed that she was laughing more and more since her return. When they reached the hospital, it was proven that Naruto was right. Sakura did demand to treat her. Naruto was shown to a room to wait for the pink-haired girl and told to remove her jacket. Shikamaru sat on the bed with Naruto, hand on her shin. He was reminded sharply of the time he visited her after Sasuke nearly killed her. Shikamaru was still going to make that boy pay if he ever came back to the village. Naruto, what have you done now? Sakura asked, opening the door to the room. Ino closed it as she followed her in. Hey Naruto, Shikamaru. I heard you guys were here, Ino greeted, eyeing off Naruto for a moment before turning her probing gaze onto her teammate. Do I want to know what happened to Naruto's arm? He probably pushed himself too much in training today, Sakura spoke up, walking around the bed. I heard it yesterday when I went up against that Kuka guy. You mean Kakuzu, corrected Shikamaru with a smile. Right, him. Naruto screamed when Sakura grabbed her arm. What the hell, Sakura? Let him go! Shikamaru growled, swinging his arm at Sakura's arm. He caused her to release her hold, allowing Naruto to cradle her arm to her torso. Naruto told you it hurt. Sakura, maybe you should examine Naruto's arm like you would with everyone else, Ino advised, taking Naruto's left hand and moving it away from her injured arm. The pink-haired girl channeled chakra into her hand before hovering them over the blonde's arm. The more that she examined Naruto's arm, the deeper the frown on her brow became. Finally she stopped and wrote on a notepad. You're too damn reckless, that's your problem. Sakura scolded when she was finished writing. Why are you getting so upset anyway? Naruto asked. Shut up. Sakura hit Naruto on the top of her head with the clipboard. Don't talk back. How about you help Naruto instead of hitting him? Shikamaru snapped, glaring at the girl. Sakura ignored him, reading the notepad again. Your arm is broken in a number of places. I'll try to speed up the healing progress, but you'll have to wear a cast. As she went to work, Naruto looked down sadly. When Shikamaru squeezed her shin, she looked up with a sad smile. It was my new jutsu, I'm sure. She looked from Shikamaru to Ino. You guys don't have to wait for me. Shikamaru, your parents are probably worried about you. Are you sure? He asked, taking the hand Ino had let go. Yeah, I'm sure. Naruto smiled. Thanks though. All right. Shikamaru stood, moving closer with the intention of giving her a kiss, only to catch himself. Instead he rubbed his thumb over the back of the hand he held. I'll come see how you are later. Bye, Naruto, Ino called as she led the way out of the room. He'll be fine. He rarely has to be healed though, so for him to be this bad is kind of terrifying. Shikamaru sighed, running his fingers through his hair, realizing he still hadn't pulled it back. I see that not only Sakura has been spoilt by Naruto's healing speed, Ino noted with a smile. I promise he will be back to normal soon. He'll probably heal his broken bones in a quarter of the time it would take anyone else. Nodding, Shikamaru realized something. You go. I've got somewhere I have to be. He pulled back his hair before visiting Asuma-sensei's grave, putting the man's lighter on the tombstone. He was a little surprised to see Kurenai on her feet and made sure to tell her that she should be resting. It was a relief to see that she was strong enough to handle her grief. He had been worried that she would lose the baby in her suffering. Shikamaru should have realized that Asuma-sensei would go for someone strong. He made sure to comment as much to the woman. He wasn't the only one who went for a strong partner, she said with a small smile at him. Not knowing what to say, Shikamaru offered to walk her home before heading back to the Nara estate. It felt odd to know the last time he had been home he had been in such emotional turmoil he hadn't been sure how to survive. Now he could breathe easier and think clearer. His skin still held the now familiar scent of a particular blonde too. Hoping his father was up for a game of shogi, he walked into his house with a small smile on his face.